is there any recourse for Palestinians, any way to pursue justice?
Unfortunately, this violence is not a new thing. The extent of it is, but we know for really over 30 years there's impunity for settlers that are perpetrating such things, even if it's really severe cases where settlers shot people to death, and we recorded at least 7 incidents like that in the past 3 weeks. I think that the only thing that will change the situation is international pressure on Israel, and I thought that President Biden addressed the situation. Others should also do that, because Israel needs now the support and backing of the world, especially of the United States, and we believe that international pressure like that can kind of improve the situation, or at least make Israel do something in order to prevent those attacks from going on.
Just lastly to you, Roy, can I get your reaction to that story? I don't know if you heard it right before we went to you live, that the Israeli government is downplaying this document that has been leaked, which talks about the relocation of millions of Palestinians from Gaza to Egypt. I know we're talking about the West Bank, but obviously this is a broadly relevant idea. What's your reaction to that leak?
First of all, it's disgusting that people are even, contemplating such vast atrocities and crimes against humanity. So it's really absolutely disgusting, reprehensible. I can't find words to express how horrified I am that Jewish people can even fathom conducting such horrible things. That said, it's the honest of the Israeli government to disprove this. There are elements in this government that has called for similar things, that are supporting similar things. And it's by their own words. We know that the Israeli finance minister said wipe out Hawara just a few months ago. It's up to them to downplay it. It's not up to me. I'm worried that people that are supportive of such ideas are part of the Israeli government, and if the Israeli prime minister has any shred of responsibility to what goes on, he should fire them today.
Roy Yellen in Tel Aviv, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Just into CNN, Qatar has negotiated a deal between Israel, Hamas and Egypt in coordination with the US to get all foreign nationals and critically injured civilians released from Gaza. That's according to a source familiar with those talks. And it's important to note this agreement is separate from any hostage negotiations, and there are no details yet on exactly how many people could be released or when that might happen. But we'll have more on that for you after a short break. You're watching CNN.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
Introducing the all-new Black Wolf Sonic Scrubber. The charcoal-infused silicone bristles are soft, massaging, and exfoliate with vibrations. It is designed to reach your back, lather your legs, and anywhere else. Get 20% off now at GetSonicScrubber.com.
I love shopping The Real Real. It's Gucci,
Louis Vuitton,
Prada, Dior,
Rolex,
Burberry, Saint Laurent.
It's luxury brands up to 90% off retail.
It's 10,000 new arrivals every single day, and they've all been authenticated.
It's keeping it sustainable.
It's finding something one of a kind. It's whatever you want it to be.
thousands of new arrivals daily, up to 90% off retail.
The Real Real, where luxury is yours to define.
Dry skin is sensitive skin too, and it's natural. Treat it that way with Aveeno Daily Moisture. Formulated with nourishing prebiotic oat, it's clinically proven to moisturize dry skin for 24 hours. Aveeno.
With Gold Bond, you can age on your own terms. Retinol Overnight means the smoothing benefits of retinol are now for your whole body. Plus, fast-working crepe corrector diminishes wrinkled skin in just 2 days. Gold Bond, championing your skin.
As loved members of our family, we want our cats to be happy. But when they spray outside the litter box, fight with other house cats, or scratch the furniture, they could be telling you they're stressed. To help them feel more calm, plug in Feel Away Optima. The relaxing pheromones of Feel Away Optima Optimum. Help your cat feel more comfortable and secure at home. Feel Away Optimum, enhanced calming for cats. From the #1 vet-recommended brand for feline calming. Available at pet stores or ask your vet.
There's a reason big dental bills often come as a shock. Because sometimes you don't realize what's not covered until you get the bill. That's why affordable dental insurance from Physicians Mutual is important. It can give you benefits that go beyond what you get from more limited coverage plans. Because no one likes a big dental bill, especially if you're retired or on a fixed income. For a free information kit, call or go online now. This isn't some discount plan or preventive-only coverage. This is real dental insurance that helps cover over 350 procedures, like cleanings, fillings, crowns, bridges, root canals, even dentures, at any dentist you want. Dental insurance from Physicians Mutual Insurance Company helps cover preventive care, basic work, and major procedures, with no deductibles and no annual maximum. For your free information kit with all the details, call now or visit sendinfokit.com.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
Updating some news just into CNN now. Qatar has negotiated a deal between Israel, Hamas and Egypt in coordination with the United States to get all foreign nationals and critically injured civilians released from Gaza. And that is according to a source familiar with those talks. It's important to note that this agreement is separate from any hostage negotiations, and there are no details yet on exactly how many people could be released or when that might happen. We have Scott McLean here with us, who's tracking these fast-moving developments. Scott, are you learning anything else at this stage?
Yeah, so the details that we have so far from Becky Anderson's source, a source familiar with the talks that have been ongoing. Obviously, you have to have a lot of parties on the same page in order to make anything happen at the Rafah border crossing. You need the Israelis, you need Hamas, and you need the Egyptians to all agree for anything to happen at all. So this source has told our Becky Anderson that there will be 500 foreigners allowed to cross. There are some 400, 500, maybe 600 Americans there alone. Obviously, there will be many other people holding various other foreign passports. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we could be talking about thousands of potentially foreigners who've been trapped inside Gaza. So 500 is very likely not all of the foreigners. I think the open question at this stage is this a sign of things to come? Is this a sign that foreigners are finally going to be let out? Because it's been pretty bewildering to see people holding foreign passports saying, I want out of this war zone, and essentially the gates being shut. It's been pretty remarkable to see. You know, I'm struggling to find a comparison in another conflict where foreigners have been sort of trapped inside. Even on the Israeli side, foreigners were, you know, on some of the first flights out and were allowed to leave. But in Gaza, they have been stuck there, and now at least some of them might be leaving. I understand we have a live shot of the Rafah border crossing. It's not clear whether some or any of these foreigners have actually been able to cross yet, but that is the expectation at this point. Obviously, there are ambulances on the Egyptian side waiting to take some 80 or 81 wounded, critically injured Palestinians to a field hospital that's been set up very close to the Rafah border crossing. Sheikh Zayed City is where it's located. And again, 81 is surely a drop in the bucket when we talk about some of the strikes that we have been seeing, like in the refugee camp, the Jabalia refugee camp, where, you know, the number of wounded and killed, we don't have final numbers, but it may well turn out to be a very high number, and that's just one day. We're seeing these kind of strikes all the time. The IDF says that there were 11,000 targets that have been hit since the outset of the war, in the 3.5 weeks or so since the outset of the war. And so, given that hospitals are filling up fast, given that they obviously don't have the resources that they need, and that we're seeing people being treated on the floor effectively, it would be undoubtedly a positive sign if this were the beginning of a new trend to allow injured Palestinians out and obviously foreigners out as well.
Scott McLean, thank you. Bring us any new developments that you get. A Hamas spokesperson claims the group will release some foreign nationals held hostage in the coming days. It comes after Hamas says requests came from their respective home countries through mediators. Hamas hasn't clarified how many hostages will be released or which countries they come from. On Monday, the militant group released a video showing 3 women believed to be hostages. One of the women demanded Israel continue negotiations to free all hostages, though it's unclear if her comments were made under duress. Her brother tells CNN it's clear she isn't doing well.
What we saw in the video is her in a very, very big distress.
Yeah.
My sister is a calm person. Seeing her like that, hearing her means that she's not well. The fact that she's speaking doesn't mean that she's well.
Right.
And the fact that people are now saying, okay, they look good, that's exactly what they want us to think. Everyone is okay.
Meanwhile, the streets around Jerusalem City Hall have been filled with empty beds and cribs. Each represent one of more than 200 missing people taken hostage on October the 7th. We'll be right back.
The right age for Neutrogena retinol?
That's whenever you want it to be.
It has germ-proven retinol
That targets vital cell turnover, even skin tone.
and smooths fine lines with visible results in just 1 week. Neutrogena retinol.
Spills, splashes, boil-overs, and burns. Your stove is a mess, and all that soaking, scrubbing, and scraping are keeping you in distress. Hi, Lou Caputo here with Stove Guard, the #1 top-quality stovetop protector on the market and a must-have in every kitchen. Look, these messes are no match for the Stove Guard. Ooey-gooey cheese and macaroni, thick red staining sauce, even this sticky melted candy. They just rinse right off in seconds, and your stove stays sanitary, spotless, and clean. So you can clean less and live more.
I love to cook, but I absolutely hate to clean. With Stove Guard, I rinse it off, and then I'm back to spending time with my family.
Now, we've all seen the old tin foil trick, but it just doesn't cut it. And these other brands are just way too flimsy and leave way too much uncovered. Look how much thicker Stove Guard Premium is than the competition. There's no comparison. And it's custom designed and precision cut to fit perfectly around every burner. Plus, every Stove Guard is made from durable, fire retardant, FDA-approved material and PFOA and BPA free. It's almost impossible to destroy, and it always rinses off perfectly clean.
Stoves are expensive, and I don't want to have to go out and buy a new one. I want to protect the one that I have, and Stove Guard lets me do that. Keeps my stovetop looking like new, like I just bought it.
Ordering your own Stove Guard Premium is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Just locate your model number behind the door or bottom drawer of your stove. Type it into our easy-to-use website, and voila! Order today, and we'll ship it to you free. That's right, go to stoveguard.com right now for free shipping. And if you order now, we'll also send you the Micro Guard to help you say goodbye to the splatter messes in your microwave. Just pay a separate processing fee. This item is not available in stores, so scan the QR code on your screen or go to stoveguard.com today.
Which hotel? Somebody say which hotel? I'm great at this. Dance your faves in the spa-like bathroom. Or enjoy local craft beers with breathtaking views at the Cambria. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022. And the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can open loans, transfer home titles, and even commit crimes in your name.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and it was used for criminal activity.
Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place.
I clicked, "That's not me," and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim, a dedicated US-based restoration specialist will work to fix the issue. All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Enrollment takes just minutes. Call now or go online and use promo code GET25 to save 25% on your first year. Enroll now.
Closed captioning brought to you by InVetHelp. Call 1-800-710-0020.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Call InventHelp today. They can help you get started with your idea.
Call now, 800-710-0020.
Welcome back. Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla are in Kenya for a state visit. They received a ceremonial welcome in Nairobi on Tuesday. This visit comes as the East African nation marks 60 years of independence from British colonial rule. And some Kenyans continue to seek reparations for human rights abuses committed by the British Empire. CNN's Max Foster reports from Nairobi.
Elizabeth II became Queen while visiting Kenya in 1952 on the death of her father. That same year, Mau Mau freedom fighters, led by Dedan Kimathi, rebelled against British rule. London responded by declaring a state of emergency, and its military rounded up more than 90,000 Kenyans who were tortured, maimed and or killed, according to the Kenyan Human Rights Commission. Their death warrants, signed by the British, hang in the Tunnel of Martyrs in Nairobi today.
Those who died in the resistance are honoured here at the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior, along with all of Kenya's fallen heroes. King Charles coming here to lay a wreath. But for many Kenyans, they want more than gestures.
The British government did concede in 2013 that it sincerely regretted the abuses, but it hasn't accepted responsibility or liability. But it has paid out a settlement of $30 million to more than 5,000 Kenyans who claimed human rights abuses. This mural depicts Kimathi. His daughter, Evelyn, wants a full apology from Charles and reparations from the UK.
Though we are not expecting so much because we have tried to reach them, but they are telling us he's not a political leader and he cannot make any political decision. But his willpower, his goodwill is the one we want.
Would the king go further and offer a full apology? This is what he said at a state banquet held in his honour by President Ruto of Kenya.
The wrongdoings of the past are a cause of the greatest sorrow and the deepest regret. There were abhorrent and unjustifiable acts of violence committed against Kenyans as they waged, as you said at the United Nations, a painful struggle for independence and sovereignty. And for that, there can be no excuse.
So short of a full apology and no mention of reparations.
While there has been efforts to atone for the death, injury, and suffering inflicted on Kenyan Africans by colonial government, much remains to be done in order to achieve full reparations.
We'll still continue pushing. Yeah, the struggle continues.
As it does in an increasing number of former British colonies across Africa and the Caribbean.
CNN's Max Foster joins me now from Nairobi, Kenya. Max, very good to see you. It looks warm over there. So, on the face of it, for those of us who don't understand the royals as you do, it might seem counterintuitive for the British monarch to go and visit for a 60-year anniversary of the end of British rule over Kenya. What is the purpose of the visit? What is King Charles hoping to get out of it?
So it's really, he's here on government advice. So they're trying to establish a firm relationship between Kenya and the UK, forge a new relationship going forward, of course, getting those economic ties really firmed up as well, post-Brexit. So it's about forward-looking, but they being forward-looking. We're going to see a bit more about that later on in the tour, but this first part was really dealing with the big sort of elephant in the room, which is the rebellion and that horrendous suppression that the Brits put upon the people of Kenya. And we've actually just had King Charles at this cemetery, this war cemetery. He met World War II veterans, one of which was 117 years old, Samuel he was called. They actually had to throw their medals away during the uprising in the 1950s because they didn't want to be associated with the UK. Today, Charles came here and presented them with new medals. So small token gestures perhaps, but also symbols really of how they're trying to move on from the past and forge a way ahead.
In terms of popular sentiment, Is there a desire to forge deeper ties with Britain, given the complex and dark legacy of colonialism there?
Well, certainly the people we've spoken to, you know, they feel that was a great era of suppression in Kenya, and the legacy lives on, and a lot of it is associated with the economy and how the chaos that followed British rule really damaged the economy and damaged society here. So I think there is a will actually to re-establish ties with the United Kingdom as a full equal partnership going forward, so they can benefit in terms of the economy, always a shadow of what happened in the 1950s. But I think there is a genuine will to deal with that. Of course, Kenyans want reparations, which is something the UK isn't offering and probably can't even afford at this point.
Max Foster for us in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much. I'll see you in a couple of days. Parts of northern Italy are dealing with heavy rain and violent winds. Flash flooding on Tuesday pounded Milan and caused Lake Como to overflow its banks. The severe weather took down trees, ripped off roof tiles and knocked out power. Heavy rains also hammered Tuscany. Forecasters say the wet weather will last through most of the week. It's been a year of deadly flooding in northern Italy. In May, storms killed at least 14 people. More than 20 rivers broke their banks, causing hundreds of landslides, submerging homes and devastating farmland. That does it here today for CNN Newsroom. I'm Bianca Nobilo in London. Early Start is up for you next.
One whole story, one whole hour. World's best journalists dig deeper.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
A heart attack? Do they have life insurance?
No.
But we have life insurance. John.
I'm trying to find something we can afford.
Fortunately, in only a few minutes, SelectQuote found John a $500,000 policy for only $29 a month. And his wife Anne a $500,000 policy for only $21 a month. Go to SelectQuote.com now and get the insurance your family needs
at a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
I love shopping The Real. It's Gucci,
Louis Vuitton,
Prada,
Hermes,
Dior,
Rolex,
Burberry, Saint Laurent.
It's luxury brands up to 90% off retail.
It's 10,000 new arrivals every single day, and they've all been authenticated. It's keeping it sustainable.
It's finding something one of a kind.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Thousands of new arrivals daily, up to 90% off retail.
The Real, where luxury is yours to define.
Dry skin is sensitive skin too, and it's natural. Treat it that way. Aveeno Daily Moisture with prebiotic oat is proven to moisturize dry skin all day. You'll love our formula for face too. Aveeno.
As loved members of our family, we want our cats to be happy. But when they spray outside the litter box, fight with other house cats, or scratch the furniture, they could be telling you they're stressed. To help them feel more calm, plug in Feel Away Optimum. The relaxing pheromones of Feel Away Optimum help your cat feel more comfortable and secure at home. Feel Away Optimum, enhanced calming for cats, from the #1 vet-recommended brand for feline calming. Available at pet stores or ask your vet.
Only the Sleep Number Climate 360 Smart Bed lets you both sleep up to 13 degrees cooler or warmer on either side, and at your ideal level of comfort, your Sleep Number setting. And now, the new Queen Sleep Number C2 Smart Bed is only $8.99. Sleep next level. Shop now, only at Sleep Number.
In time, the legs and arms find skill. The head finds purpose. And the heart finds courage. strength in one thing becomes strength in all things. To change a life, just add play. Help empower Indigenous youth through sport and play. Visit justaddplay.ca. Spirit North. Discover crisp morning air. Flavors of the Spice Trail. Peaceful places. Encounters with nature. And so much more. From forest trails to our urban center, West Coast warmth is ready to welcome you. Leave the cool behind. Now is the perfect time to discover Surrey.
I'm MJ Lee at the White House, and this is CNN.
Right now, on Early Start, the deal just brokered with Hamas, Israel, and Egypt to let foreign nationals get out of Gaza. Plus, the IDF defending a deadly strike on a crowded refugee camp in Gaza, what Israel says the intended target was. And just hours from now in a New York courtroom, the oldest son of former President Trump could take the stand in a fraud trial against the family business. Good morning to our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Casey Hunt. It's Wednesday, November 1st, 5 a.m. on the East Coast. We begin with breaking news. Sources telling CNN that a deal has been reached among Israel, Hamas, and Egypt in coordination with the U.S. to release all foreign nationals who have been stuck in Gaza, along with critically injured civilians. The sources say the deal is separate from any hostage negotiations. CNN's Rafael Romo is live for us in Tel Aviv. Rafael, we've just learned about this in the last hour or so. What more do we know about what happens next?
Casey, good morning. First of all, we have to say that this agreement is, as you mentioned before, and this is crucial, very important, because there are many families waiting not only for these civilians, but also from the hostages. And it is separate, indeed, from any hostage negotiations. And yes, it is a deal that was brokered by Israel, Hamas, and Egypt with coordination with the United States with the purpose of releasing all foreign nationals. And according to sources familiar with the negotiations, Casey, critically injured civilians will also be allowed to get out of Gaza. Now, I have to tell you, this is still very preliminary, and there's no timeline or details on the number of people to be released. What we had previously been reporting was that 81 injured Palestinians were expected to arrive at the Rafah crossing at some point today after the massive attack yesterday by Israel at the Jabalia refugee camp. But in any case, this agreement marks a major breakthrough when it comes to getting civilians out of Gaza. Many of those civilians, Casey, are American citizens with U.S. passports that have been stuck there since the beginning of the war. So very good news for them and their families. Casey?
Rafael, can you tell us a little bit more about the large numbers of civilians that were killed and injured in the airstrike at the refugee camp you mentioned? That's in northern Gaza. I mean, the IDF says that they succeeded in killing a top Hamas commander, but obviously the civilian casualties were just devastating.
Yeah, that's right. One doctor on the ground said that it was hundreds of people who had died, dozens of others injured. We are working ourselves to get confirmation on the specific numbers, but let me tell you, Casey, there's been widespread condemnation across the region to the attack. The governments of Egypt, Iran, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, as well as the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have all denounced the attack. One of the most forceful condemnations came from Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who said that Israel, quote, has completely lost its mind and acts like an organization, adding that Israel, backed by the unconditional support of Europe and America, has been committing crimes against humanity for 25 days. What is Israel saying to all the criticism? This is what spokesman Jonathan Conricas had to say just a few hours ago. Let's take a listen.
I'm not saying that there are no civilian casualties. What I am saying is that we struck an important military objective. This Ibrahim Briari, who was a battalion commander, he and many dozens of enemy combatants were in a tunnel complex underneath the ground. We struck that tunnel complex and that caused it to collapse. Hamas built that vast tunnel complex underneath the buildings and it probably collapsed as a result of the strike.
And Casey, he added that not allowing civilians to evacuate the combat zone is also a crime against humanity. Hiding behind civilians, using them as human shields is also a war crime. And even countries as far away from here as Colombia and Chile have decided to recall their ambassadors to Israel for consultation due to Israel's strikes on Gaza. And Bolivia has cut off diplomatic relations with Israel, citing crimes against humanity. Casey?
Okay, Rafael Romo in Israel for us. Thank you very much for that report. The Biden administration under pressure as the number of civilian casualties grows in Gaza, plus Donald Trump Jr. under oath later today with the family business on trial in New York.
The right age for Neutrogena retinol?
That's whenever you want it to be.
It has germ-proven retinol
That targets vital cell turnover, even skin tone,
and smooths fine lines with visible results in just 1 week. Neutrogena retinol.
For over 25 years, Lovesac has been rewriting the rules of comfort. It's okay to change your style. It's okay to change your mind. And to change things up. Get messy. Get immersed. With Lovesac, you make the rules.
With Boost Infinite, get iPhone 15 Pro with titanium and save up to 40% on your monthly bill. Transcend to a wireless utopia and experience America's smart network. With unparalleled coverage from 3 of the nation's top wireless networks. No trade-in needed to get iPhone 15 Pro with titanium on us. Save up to 40% on your monthly bill and enjoy the latest iPhone every year with unlimited wireless.
Meet Gold Bond Daily Healing, a powerhouse lotion that moisturizes, heals, and smooths dry skin with 7 moisturizers and 3 vitamins. And new Gold Bond Healing Sensitive, clinically shown to heal and moisturize dry, sensitive skin. Gold Bond.
The virus that causes shingles is sleeping in 99% of people over 50, and it could strike at any time. Think you're not at risk? Wake up, because shingles could wake up in you. If you're over 50, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about shingles prevention.
Can we get real clear about life with psoriasis?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Is your treatment leaving you with uncontrolled symptoms? Like the cover-it-ups and brush-it-offs?
enough with good enough.
Don't stay hiding or hurting. When your lotions and creams don't do enough to help treat the inflammation beneath the skin causing plaques and pain, it's time to get real about psoriasis so your dermatologist can help you get clear. Make the appointment and ask about Real Clear Skin.
What do you get from the Morgan Stanley client experience? Listening more than talking, and a personalized plan to guide you through a changing world.
With the Freestyle Libre 2 system, know your glucose level and where it's headed. No finger sticks needed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence. Freestyle Libre 2. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
Life, diabetes. Each day is a unique blend of going, doing, and living. Lucerna Protein Smart with 30 grams of protein to help keep you moving. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady to help manage blood sugar response. Lucerna, bring on the day.
Lactate is 100% real milk, just without the lactose. Delicious, too. Just ask my old friend Kevin.
Nothing like enjoying a cold one while watching the game. Who's winning?
We are, my friend. We are.
My most important kitchen tool? My brain. So I choose new Nuriva Ultra. Unlike some others, it supports 7 brain health indicators, including mental alertness, from 1 serving to help keep me sharp. Try new Nuriva Ultra. Think bigger.
You should empty that.
Empty what?
Angie that. It means connecting with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well, so you can focus on the important stuff. It means seeing millions of ratings and reviews, so you can feel confident. It means comparing quotes or booking at an upfront price, so you can choose the best price for you, because we want everyone to get the most out of their homes. Get started today at Angie.com.
Unlike Russia and Ukraine, and unlike what Hamas did on the 7th of October, the killing of civilians is not a war aim of Israel. I'm not denying that it's happening. Now, of course it is, and it's tragic. But it's not the goal of Israeli forces to go out and deliberately take innocent civilian life, and they have tried to make efforts to minimize that.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby making a critical distinction between the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th and Israel's attacks in Gaza that Israel says are focused on eliminating Hamas leaders and armed fighters. Let's bring in retired Australian Army Major General Mick Ryan. He joins us live from Brisbane, Australia. General, thanks for being with us. Let's talk about the distinction that is being made here, because there are, of course, civilians who have been terribly impacted by the strikes that Israel is making. Obviously, there are accusations of war crimes from the Palestinian side. Israel says this is aimed at legitimate targets, and that the reality is the people they're targeting, Hamas, are building these tunnels and putting military infrastructure underneath human beings, and that's what makes it so hard. How do you view each side's argument here?
Well, it's certainly a very difficult balancing act for the Israelis to achieve here. Yes, there are legitimate targets that they're going after in Gaza, but military necessity and proportionality are also very important principles at play here. And beyond the laws of war, there's also the need to engage in ethical conduct at the end of the day to kill a couple of enemy combatants but then accidentally kill 100 civilians. We need to question the proportionality of that.
Yeah, I mean, when Israel talks about eliminating Hamas, it does seem as though, as a military objective, I've spoken to many of your American counterparts over the last few weeks about this, and a number of them have made the argument that it may actually be an impossible strategic objective because of the nature of the enemy. What is your sense, and how should that factor into what you importantly raised, this question of proportionality?
Well, destroying Hamas clearly is the goal of the Israeli government, but whether that can be achieved or not, I think, is a very good question to ask. You're not just killing people and destroying their tunnels or their infrastructure. You have to destroy an idea. You have to destroy the things that make it attractive to become part of Hamas. And if those things, which are not military tasks, if those things aren't taken care of, all the military action in the world will not remove Hamas in the long term.
Can we talk a little bit about this breaking news that we had earlier this morning, which is, a deal has been announced that Qatar has apparently brokered to get all foreign nationals out of Gaza. Hamas has been refusing to let a lot of these people leave, and also to bring out critically injured Palestinians. They would be the first Palestinians allowed out since this conflict began. That, of course, has more to do with Egypt. How important is this agreement at this stage?
It's extraordinarily important. There are a lot of people in Gaza who have dual nationalities, who have dual passports, and they want to get out. Hamas hasn't let them get out, plus the border hasn't been opened. So this is very important to be able to get those people out, as well as to extract those who need critical treatment in Egypt.
And on the humanitarian aid front, I mean, one of the things we saw earlier this week, too, was reports from the UN of looting. They called it a breakdown in civil disorder. The other narrative around that was, well, perhaps Hamas is stealing supplies. How is that kind of balance playing out right now?
Well, certainly Hamas isn't helping. We saw an interview in the last 24 hours talking about the tunnels. Well, admit it, the tunnels aren't to protect the people of Gaza, they're for Hamas. And I think the same could be said of the critical supplies. Hamas is hoarding them for themselves. That said, there is an obligation to provide humanitarian assistance, and helping Israel to defend itself and providing humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza do not need to be a one or another discussion. Both can be done.
There is some reporting this morning, not confirmed by CNN, so I don't want to get into the details, but suffice to say there are conversations about what should happen in Gaza from a governance perspective in the wake of what we've seen. Obviously, Israel is not willing to accept what the status quo had been, which was Hamas acting. Obviously, there's the militant wing and terrorists who committed these atrocities. There is also a governing wing of Hamas that is responsible for a wider range of services and other things. If we say, okay, that's not acceptable, there has to be something else. And there are potential options on the table, a peacekeeping force made up of different Western countries, a UN force, etc. What kind of conversations are going on in your corner of the world? Obviously, Australia, part of kind of a Western alliance, despite being located in a different part of the world.
Well, I think Australia certainly supports the right of Israel to defend itself, but also strongly believes in providing humanitarian assistance to Gaza. At the end of the day, this isn't just about destroying Hamas. More importantly, it's about making it irrelevant to the people of Gaza and giving them an option for better governance. I mean, Hamas even admitted in the wake of the September-October atrocities that it had been pretending to govern Gaza to trick the Israelis before those attacks. So the people of Gaza need a better choice, and at the end of the day, the strategic outcome has to be to make Hamas irrelevant, not just to destroy them.
All right, retired Australian Major General Mick Ryan, thank you very much for being with us this morning, sir. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The White House and Senate Republicans pushing back on the new House Speaker's first big move. We're going to have more on the battle to unbundle aid for Israel and Ukraine. Plus, is Donald Trump getting a taste of his own medicines? Could some of his attacks on Biden be coming back to bite him?
The new CNN prime time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN prime time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
My store and my design business were exploding, but my old internet was not letting me run the show. So we switched to Verizon Business Internet. They have business-grade internet nationwide.
Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
Attention hearing loss sufferers. Do you struggle hearing loved ones? Do you have trouble keeping up with conversations? Do you listen to TV on max volume? Hearing loss affects your life. You miss out on important moments. You feel alone. Start hearing better today with RCA's all-new advanced hearing aids. These aren't cheap amplifiers that don't really work, and you'll never have to pay thousands again. The FDA now allows us to bring true high-quality hearing aids direct to you. Through RCA's Hearing America program, you can get your choice of 2 state-of-the-art ultra-discreet hearing aids listed at $11.99 now for a special introductory price, or pay as little as only $29 a month with free shipping.
They're affordable. They're not the cost that people associate with hearing aids.
My old-fashioned one cost me $5,000, and these actually work better.
Engineered with advanced technology, the RCAs are rechargeable and have easy-to-use volume controls built right in. And unlike so many others, with the push of a button, these hearing aids give you presets for better hearing in a quiet setting, loud restaurants, or listening to music. You can adjust them to help you hear the best wherever you are. There are no tools required and no batteries to fumble with.
When I first popped them in, I went, wow, I hear everything.
Simply slip in your RCA hearing aids and instantly hear your world again.
Grandpa, I love you.
Never miss a moment again.
You know RCA. The quality's there.
You cleared up decades of frustration in a second.
Order now, and we'll ship your pair of FDA-registered hearing aids in your choice of style with incredible savings. Pay as low as only $29 a month. You get a 45-day money-back guarantee, free 24/7 U.S.-based support, a portable charging case, and free shipping. With RCA, you can be hearing better in just days. Order yours now.
Call 800-677-6954 or visit rcahearingaids.com. That's 800-677-6954.
Icy hot. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last. Feel the power of contrast therapy. So you can rise from pain. Icy hot.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health. Skin craving next level hydration? New Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Cream. A vital boost of 9 times more hydration to boost your skin's barrier for quenched, dewy skin that's full of life. Neutrogena Hydro Boost.
Diabetes is a daily challenge for millions of Canadians. Since 2005, DriftCan is committed to funding world-renowned research, giving real hope for a cure to people with diabetes.
DriftCan is dedicated to minimizing overhead costs. We regularly donate 90% of funds raised to the cure-based research of Dr. James Shapiro and his team at the University of Alberta.
You can break diabetes. We can do this together with your help.
We're both grateful and humbled by the generosity of the ALS Society of BC and the provincial government who provided the resources to allow UBC to recruit someone with the international stature of Professor Pioro.
I'm honored to take the lead for Project Hope. We will work diligently to create opportunities for persons living with ALS to have access to clinical trials. Our goal for ALS research at UBC is to become a leader.
On behalf of people living with ALS in BC, thank you.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Quick hits across America now. Federal officials say a 21-year-old Cornell student is now facing charges for allegedly making violent online threats against the university's Jewish community. The student could face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. The Supreme Court spent several hours hearing arguments over when and if a public official has the right to block a follower on social media. At issue, does the right to free speech apply when an official posts details about their government job online? It's a question they'll face in several upcoming cases. And the Senate confirmed former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew as the new U.S. ambassador to Israel. The 53-43 vote was primarily along party lines. Republicans objected to Lew's involvement with the Iran nuclear deal during the Obama administration. And it is the first morning of November, if you can believe that, and record-breaking cold temperatures are in store today from the southern plains to the northeast. Let's get straight to meteorologist Derek Van Dam. Derek, good morning to you. I will say I personally felt this on the East Coast last night when we were out for Halloween. I felt like it was getting steadily colder from about 3 p.m. on, and based on that snow behind you, there's some rough winter weather out there today.
Yeah, can I just give a bit of props to all the parents who are awake at this time of the morning, especially if you've got children that you lugged around in the snow? I mean, this is a real story. Out of the Great Lakes on Halloween, there was a few inches of snow from Chicago into my home state of Michigan. It got so windy, so snowy that the electricity went out in parts of West Michigan near the lakeshore, and they canceled trick-or-treating for some of the kids. Oh, drastic. But this is the scene that unfolded. This is lake effect snow band, and in fact, the latest radar shows some of those snow bands moving off the greater Chicago region, but right back into southwestern Michigan and right off of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario as well. A little closer look, and you can see some of those snow bands. Wow, that is a spooky Halloween forecast. We warned you yesterday that there would be a drastic cool down, and it's not just across the Great Lakes and the Midwest. It's all the way to the Mid-Atlantic and the East Coast. Check out D.C., our nation's capital. On the 30th of October, it was 82. I think today will only reach 51 degrees for the afternoon. So you're waking up to a cold start to November, and we have roughly about 60 potential record lows from today through tomorrow morning. That's why the National Weather Service has this hard freeze warning for places like Atlanta, Charlotte, all the way to D.C., and you can see that below freezing temperatures for much of the nation's midsection, still the lower 40s along the East Coast, but it's really nasty when you factor in the wind chill values well below freezing for many locations over the eastern two-thirds. The only silver lining in this forecast, Casey, is that we'll get a bit of sunshine because the cold front that brought the chill, the autumn weather, is well off the East Coast, so that'll help rebound at least the feeling on our skin because of the yellow sunshine. But wow. I'm telling you, if I got red eyes this morning, it's because my kids brought me around until at least 9 p.m. and my alarm goes off at 3 in the morning. Whew.
Yeah, you know, we, yes, I still have younger kids, so, you know, I'm pretty good to go to bed with them around 7:30 at night, so I feel ya. I do think we have a lot of parents of young kids up with us at this hour of the day. We see you. Thank you for being here, Weatherman Derek Van Dam. Thank you very much, sir. It's great to have you. See you tomorrow. All right, up next here, a fleet of ambulances arriving to take the first Palestinian patients allowed out of Gaza when they are expected to cross into Egypt next. And former President Trump's son, Don Jr., expected to take the stand today. What to expect as his children begin testimony in the New York civil fraud trial against his companies ahead.
My store, my design business, we're exploding. But my old internet was not letting me run the show. So we switched to Verizon Business Internet. They have business-grade internet nationwide.
Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
Hi, I'm Ben. I've lost 60 pounds on Go-Go. I've struggled with weight my whole life. I'm sure you like me, and you try diet after diet. If you want to stop the insanity, try Go-Go.
Hey, human, what if you could accomplish something instead of endlessly following up? How about if you collaborated with other humans in other departments? What if making a project template was quicker than putting on work pants? What if you could keep up with projects without chasing other humans down? What if how humans work actually worked for humans? Operate at peak human. Smart cheat.
Icy hot. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last. Feel the power of contrast therapy. So you can rise from pain. Icy hot.
Nikki Haley's record on China as Governor Haley rolled out the red carpet for Chinese companies.
They want to do business in South Carolina. Our home, your home.
She gave them millions in tax breaks, subsidies, free land. The Communist Party-owned high-tech company got 200 acres, 5 miles from an army base.
I think China is really in good faith doing quite a bit. They are a really great friend of ours.
Nikki Haley, questionable judgment, dangerous on China. Never back down is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Stay tuned to get this 5-piece ultra non-stick bakeware set free from Granite Stone. Are you tired of pots that burn, lids that don't fit, and pans that stick? You know you need a new set, but the prices are so high it makes you sick. Well, get ready for a kitchen full of the most durable ultra non-stick cookware at the most affordable price anywhere. Introducing Granite Stone Blue, the fast, easy way to cook gourmet family meals every day. Each piece of Granite Stone cookware is pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction and coated 3 times with our durable ultra non-stick Granite Stone Blue finish. Granite Stone Blue is oven rated up to 500 degrees for outstanding roasting and come with vented tempered glass lids to prevent boil over. Plus, all Granite Stone cookware is 100% dishwasher and metal utensil safe. Look, you'd expect to pay up to $500 for a professional quality cookware set. But during this special TV introduction, you can get the Granite Stone Blue 12-piece set, not for $500, $400, or even $300, but for the factory direct price of just 5 easy payments of $49.95. And for everyone who orders today, we're going to drop 1 payment. You get it all for just 4 easy payments of $49.95. Granite Stone cookware is so durable, it comes with a 10-year warranty. As a bonus, we'll include our self-draining fry basket, stainless steel steamer insert, and the steamer rack, a $50 value, absolutely free. And there's even more. As a special gift, you'll get our 5-piece Granite Stone Blue bakeware set, the fast, easy, ultra non-stick way to bake up your favorite desserts. No grease or oil needed. Together, they're a $110 value. Yours free. That's an incredible 20-piece Granite Stone Blue set, all for just 4 easy payments of $49.95. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-916-5667. That's 1-800-916-5667, or order online at granitestoneblue.com.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
Good morning. Thank you for being up early with us. I'm Casey Hunt. 2 minutes or so before 5 a.m. here on the East Coast, and we have more now on our breaking news. There is a deal this morning to get all foreign nationals and critically injured civilians out of Gaza via the Rafah crossing. Sources tell CNN the deal was brokered by Qatar and includes Israel, Hamas, and Egypt. CNN's Scott McLean is live for us in London. Scott, good morning. We are getting new details just as we're coming on the air, so forgive me this new urgent lines. About 400 foreign nationals, according to our latest reporting, could be released from Gaza under this Qatar-mediated deal. What more do we know?
Yeah, so if that were the case, that 400 foreign nationals were let out of Gaza under this deal, which, by the way, is according to sources who spoke with our colleague Becky Anderson, who is in Doha right now. If that were to be the case, that would not account for all of the foreigners inside Gaza. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, said that there were 400 Americans alone looking to get out of Gaza, and many of them are looking to bring their families who may or may not have any status in the United States with them. Obviously, people are desperate to get to safety. You may recall American officials telling Americans on the ground in Gaza some 2 weeks ago to go to the Rafah border crossing in hopes that it might actually open. That never happened. People have been waiting under some pretty desperate conditions ever since. So this would be monumental. The question is, how many will ultimately get let out beyond today, and whether or not this is a sign of things to come, and whether everyone will be allowed to go. We are also seeing ambulances at the border. We have those pictures there. These are ambulances waiting on the Egyptian side, ready to take about 80 or 81 patients from Palestinian hospitals, people who need surgery that cannot be performed in Gaza, to a field hospital just inside the border with Egypt. This would mark the first Palestinians who are able to leave Gaza since this conflict began. And again, the question is this a sign of things to come, or is this a one-off?
All right, Scott McLean, thank you very much for that important update. Really appreciate your reporting this morning. And the Biden administration is seeking a $105 billion national security budget request that includes significant funding for Israel and Ukraine. Yesterday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who is heading to Israel late this week, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin tried to make the case on Capitol Hill for keeping funding for these two crises together.
If we start to peel off pieces of this package, they'll see that. They'll understand that we are playing whack-a-mole while they cooperate increasingly and pose an ever greater threat to our security as well as that of allies and partners.
Today's battles against aggression and terrorism will define global security for years to come. And only firm American leadership can ensure that tyrants and thugs and terrorists worldwide are not emboldened to commit more aggression and more atrocities.
Of course, the new Speaker, Mike Johnson, and House Republicans seem to have other ideas. Let's bring in CNN's Stephen Collinson, who's up early with us to talk about his new piece, looking at Mike Johnson, the new Speaker, and kind of this risky move that he is making. Stephen, thank you very much for being here. He is, the House Speaker is basically saying, not only is he going to separate Israel and Ukraine aid from each other, which is something that Democrats, the White House, think means it's less likely that Ukraine will get funded the way they would like to see it funded, but he also is putting spending cuts related to the IRS, basically these very, right-wing conservative priorities into something that historically would really just go by itself because the recognition would be, hey, we urgently need to aid Israel. I mean, that's something that the vast majority of members of Congress agree on.
That's right, and this is quite a surprising gambit from Mike Johnson as he opens his speakership. What he's doing is, as you say, he's setting up simultaneous clashes with Democrats by including these pay-fors, as they're called, on Capitol Hill to offset the cost of the $14 billion in Israeli funding. And he's setting up a clash with Republicans in the Senate and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell by splitting this away from the Ukraine package. McConnell favors President Joe Biden's approach of putting them all together. I think this is really interesting because you never get to see a new political leader almost creating his public persona and the foundation of his power from scratch. Normally, if it's a new president, we've seen them for 2 years on the campaign trail. Anyone that comes into high leadership in the Senate or the House has generally been in the public eye for years. So Mike Johnson is really starting from scratch here, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he maneuvers this issue as he looks ahead to the big government funding clash in a couple of weeks.
Right. No, that the stakes are incredibly high on an incredibly short timeline. I'm glad you mentioned McConnell because I want to show he was on Capitol Hill yesterday at his usual leadership conference, press conference, but he talked about this and put himself publicly on the record at odds with Mike Johnson. Take a look at McConnell.
That's an opinion many people have. It's not surprising, but in order to make a law, it has to pass both bodies and be signed by the president. My own view, I just expressed, is that we need to treat all four of these areas, all four of them, Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and the border.
So, first of all, there are some really interesting semiotics there from McConnell who seem to be saying, the message seemed to be to Mike Johnson, hey, your inexperience is showing a little bit, like, don't you know, like, how a bill becomes a law? But then also he kind of outlined, he says Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and the border. I mean, the deal that basically Republicans had sort of made with Democrats here was, okay, we can lump this together if you give us border funding. It's a different way of approaching it and one that's much more likely to actually pass. I mean, Mike Johnson at the end of the day is going to have to give up the ghost on this, no?
That's right. And that gulf of experience there between McConnell, who's been in Senate leadership for years, let alone, all of his years in Congress, and Johnson, who's just starting out, is pretty interesting. And it does lay bare these splits in the Republican Party between the old establishment Republicans like McConnell and Johnson, who comes from this pro-Trump far-right wing of the House, for whom McConnell is very unpopular. But at the end of the day, the dynamics of Washington are clear. What can come out of a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and will be accepted by a Democratic White House is going to be very different from what comes out of a Republican House. And perhaps having made an initial stand, Johnson has built the political capacity to then roll back and take these pay-fors out of the Israel package, and it will pass the House quite easily. And he would have made a political stand that will help him with his own flank as he goes forward. But ultimately, he still has to get bills through the House that can pass the Senate and will be accepted by President Joe Biden. That was the same conundrum that led to the fall of Kevin McCarthy a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And again, as we've said, this is a first test for the new speaker, but the critical one comes when that funding. It is now November 1st. So we were looking at, just over 2 weeks or so before the U.S. government is threatening to shut down again. All right, Stephen Collinson, thank you very much for being up early with us. I really appreciate you. All right, former President Trump's adult children set to begin testifying in their father's New York civil fraud trial today. Don Jr. and Eric Trump are senior Trump Organization executives and also defendants in the case. The New York Attorney General accuses them of fraudulently inflating the value of Trump's properties. Don Jr. is expected to take the stand today. Eric scheduled for tomorrow, and their sister Ivanka set for next week. Their father not expected to be in court for their testimony. Let's bring in CNN legal analyst Joey Jackson. Joey, good morning. It's always good to see you. What kind of questions do we expect Don Jr. to face today? And it's kind of interesting to me that, Dad's not going to be there, even though he's made a point of sitting down in that front row for a number of days of this trial.
Yeah, I guess the optics are of concern. Good morning to you, Casey. So there's a lot to unpack as it relates to the children and what they knew. And obviously, if you get the children, you want to know what they did in the company, when they did it, what their specific roles were as it related to really directing others to do the bidding and the business of the company, who they were working with, what relationship they had with the chief executive of the business, what strings they were pulling, what applications they were involved, really the essence of how closely were they tied with what was going on. Sometimes, Casey, in these cases, you see an executive perhaps, or people who are vice presidents even, right, who may be disengaged and may leave things to subordinates to get things done. I think here, the Attorney General really tie in to the extent of saying and arguing that this was a family conspiracy. They knew they were filing false statements. They knew they were inflating values of properties. They knew they were evading really their financial obligations and responsibilities. And so I think the essence of the testimony will be to determine what level of involvement they had, who they were involved with, and the extent to which they were orchestrating collectively and getting information collectively in order to carry out what, in essence, the Attorney General claims is a fraud. And so expect to hear a lot of information concerning the management and the ongoing dealings that he's had with the company.
Can you explain a little bit about why Ivanka's testimony in particular has been a point of contention? It seems like the former president really doesn't want her to testify, and I'm kind of curious as to your legal take on why.
Sure. So a couple of things. So the first thing is that obviously we know she was dismissed as a defendant. That was really predicated upon her leaving the company back in 2017. So to the extent that she was outside of the company, there's the issue came up of the statute of limitations and whether any conduct she engaged in would really run afoul of what the Attorney General was clawing back to do. So number one, if she's not as engaged and not focused and not involved in the company, why should she have relevant testimony as the case moves forward? That's number one. Number two, she's out of the jurisdiction. And so to the extent that she's no longer there, apparently in Miami or elsewhere, what is the materiality, as us lawyers say? What is the relevance of her testimony? What value does she add? And then the other optic is leave my daughter alone, right? I mean, I think there's sort of a protectionist element of why are you harassing? That, of course, is the claim of Mr. Trump, my daughter, as it relates to her testimony when she has nothing of value. The other two sons being more directly involved. Eric being apparently the most involved, Don Jr. reportedly more interested in politics, but the overall legal sense of it is that she doesn't have anything of value to add. I think that's what testimony is for, that's what probing is for, and that's what real critical questions are for. And I think that's what we'll find out if or when she does testify. She'll obviously continue to appeal that, but I think she'll be on the stand.
Fair enough. Yeah, it does seem, I mean, Eric Trump, obviously, when his father came to the White House, was really the person who took the lead with the company, and now we report that he's on the phone with his father all the time, very involved in the business, so a salient point there. Joey Jackson, thank you as always for your time, sir. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Case.
All right, former President Trump, of course, mocks President Biden for his age. Maybe he should think twice. We'll have more on that. Plus, Nikki Haley rising to second place behind Trump in South Carolina, what it means for her chances to run second place in the GOP primary. That's ahead.
Hockey season begins with celebration. Time to celebrate again, baby.
With Verizon Business Unlimited, I get 5G, truly unlimited data, and unlimited hotspot data. So no matter what, I'm running this kitchen.
Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
Attention hearing loss sufferers. Do you struggle hearing loved ones? Do you have trouble keeping up with conversations? Do you listen to TV on max volume? Hearing loss affects your life. You miss out on important moments. You feel alone. Start hearing better today with RCA's all-new advanced hearing aids. These aren't cheap amplifiers that don't really work, and you'll never have to pay thousands again. The FDA now allows us to bring true high-quality hearing aids direct to you. Through RCA's Hearing America program, you can get your choice of 2 state-of-the-art ultra-discreet hearing aids listed at $11.99 now for a special introductory price, or pay as little as only $29 a month with free shipping.
They're affordable. They're not the cost that people associate with hearing aids.
My old-fashioned one cost me $5,000, and these actually work better. Engineered with advanced technology, the RCAs are rechargeable and have easy-to-use volume controls built right in. And unlike so many others, with the push of a button, these hearing aids give you presets for better hearing in a quiet setting, loud restaurants, or listening to music. You can adjust them to help you hear the best wherever you are. There are no tools required and no batteries to fumble with.
When I first popped them in, I went, wow, I hear everything.
Simply slip in your RCA hearing aids and instantly hear your world again.
Grandpa, I love you.
Never miss a moment again.
You know RCA. The quality's there.
You cleared up decades of frustration in a second.
Order now and we'll ship your pair of FDA-registered hearing aids in your choice of style with incredible savings. Pay as low as only $29 a month. You get a 45-day money-back guarantee, free 24/7 US-based support, a portable charging case, and free shipping. With RCA, you can be hearing better in just days. Order yours now.
Call 800-677-6954.
or visit rcahearingaids.com. That's 800-677-6954.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health.
It's the incredible Red Dog, the amazing universal socket tool that fits, grips, and tightens virtually any fastener. Look at all the different sizes and shapes, nuts, bolts, and screws. Any head will do. Red Dog grabs on tight and locks into place fast. It replaces hundreds of different tools, yet it's smaller than a battery. 54 telescoping steel pins mold around any object. Then, up to 150 pounds of torque knock out rusted fasteners. You can get Red Dog for just $19.99. Breaking news: Red Dog may be discontinued. Due to supply chain shortages, Red Dog is stopping manufacturing immediately. There's a strict limit of 3 per order while supplies last. Order now.
Call 1-800-510-1463 or visit byreddog.com. Call 1-800-510-1463 now.
I'm Gustavo Valdez in Acapulco. This is CNN.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Skechers Arch Fit.
Nothing feels better than having support, and the same goes for your footwear. So you've got to try Skechers Arch Fit. Get the arch support you're looking for with Skechers Arch Fit.
Welcome back. Inflation, abortion, the southern border, all major policy issues that are likely to dominate the 2024 presidential race. But of course, this time around, we have a specific, unique one, and that is age. Former President Donald Trump, he's only 3 years younger than President Biden. But it's an issue for voters, President Biden's age, and Donald Trump has gone right ahead mocking the current president over it.
So he's totally incoherent. And he goes, thank you.
Okay, here's the thing though. Trump himself, not immune to making mistakes that could be attributed to his age.
Well, thank you very much, and a very big hello to a place where we've done very well, Sioux Falls. Thank you very much, Sioux Falls. So, Sioux City, let me ask you, I was very honored as a man, Viktor Orban. Did anyone ever hear of him? He's probably like one of the strongest leaders anywhere in the world. And he's the leader of, right? He's the leader of Turkey.
Notably, Viktor Orban, not the leader of Turkey. He is the Prime Minister of Hungary. This topic is the subject matter of a new article in the New York Times called How Trump's Verbal Slips Could Weaken His Attacks on Biden's Age. Let's bring in the lead author of that piece, New York Times political correspondent Michael Bender. Mike, thank you so much for being up early, especially after Halloween night with little kids. But I loved your story, and this obviously has been something that the Ron DeSantis campaign has also, in the kind of last minutes of the Republican primary, really started to focus in on. What do you think the effect of that's going to be?
Well, I think the effect here is going to be, or could be, pretty harmful for Trump. One of the new things in our article is we looked at some polling questions that a lot of pollsters are asking now. Do you think Trump is too old to run for office? And then the second question, do you think Biden is too old to run for office? Now, about two of every 3 voters say Biden is too old, and about half of America thinks Trump is too old. What we asked the pollsters to do was to look at the number of people who said both candidates are too old, and that is a pretty stunning 40% of the country. And to dive just a little bit deeper with me here, in that 40%, Biden is winning about 60% of voters. Now, I will say Democrats are much more likely to acknowledge their candidate's age than Republicans are willing to acknowledge an issue with their candidate. But that wide gap, what that shows is that if more people start to think Trump is too old, which these kind of gaffes and verbal slips could do, Trump could really pay a price in a head-to-head matchup with Biden.
What's your sense, Mike, of, I mean, we have seen voters be willing to forgive Donald Trump for political sins that no other politician would be forgiven for. And I guess my question is, how do you think it applies around this question? Because there is kind of a difference in the way Joe Biden and Donald Trump present, that maybe it's not age exactly, but there is a level of energy that's just different. And voters do seem to be willing to say, well, you know, Trump's just being Trump.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right about that. Trump's kind of just like the brute force that he speaks with, the bright shades of orange he keeps his hair and skin definitely present younger than Biden. And you know, the some of the flubs you showed earlier. I mean, mixing up cities you're in as a politician who's campaigning regularly. Voters have never punished candidates for that kind of thing in particular. But taken as a whole, these kind of episodes are piling up. The things that you showed and that we've talked about. Yeah, he's asked his voters not to vote in a kind of ramble he gave in in New Hampshire a couple weeks ago. He talked about beating Barack Obama in 2016 when it was obviously Hillary Clinton. These were all in the last couple of months. I would say A and B. What makes these important right now is that these are central to Trump's argument against Biden. And what this boils down to is a capability argument. Trump is saying that he is better suited, more fit for office, and if he's making the same kind of slips and mistakes that he is mocking Biden for, it undermines his argument and really what is a central Republican meme heading into 24.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point. And to be fair to politicians or members of bands on tour, or you and I have both been campaign reporters, I certainly have lost track of what city or state or place in the world I was sleeping in on a given night. Michael Bender of the New York Times, I really appreciate your time this morning. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, we are following breaking news here this morning. All eyes on the Rafah crossing in Egypt. Up to 500 foreign nationals may be released from Gaza under a Qatar-brokered deal. Much more on CNN this morning.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
The right age for Neutrogena retinol? That's whenever you want it to be. It has germ-proven retinol that targets vital cell turnover, even skin tone, and smooths fine lines. With visible results in just 1 week. Neutrogena retinol. Struggling with the highs and lows of bipolar 1? Ask about Vraylar. Because you are greater than your bipolar 1. And you can help take control of your symptoms with Vraylar. Some medicines only treat the lows or highs. Vraylar treats depressive, acute manic, and mixed episodes of bipolar 1 in adults. Proven full-spectrum relief for all bipolar 1 symptoms. And in Vraylar clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Sleepiness and stomach issues are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. Ask about Vraylar and learn how AbbVie could help you save.
With Boost Infinite, get iPhone 15 Pro with titanium and save up to 40% on your monthly bill. Transcend to a wireless utopia and experience America's smart network. With unparalleled coverage from 3 of the nation's top wireless networks. No trade-in needed to get iPhone 15 Pro with titanium on us. Save up to 40% on your monthly bill and enjoy the latest iPhone every year with unlimited wireless.
When moderate to severe ulcerative colitis takes you off course, put it in check with Rinvoq, a once-daily pill.
When I wanted to see results fast, Rinvoq delivered rapid symptom relief and helped to leave bathroom urgency behind. Check.
When UC tried to slow me down, I got lasting steroid-free remission with Rinvoq. Check.
And when UC caused damage, Rinvoq came through by visibly repairing my colon lining. Check. Rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission.
And a chance to visibly repair the colon lining. Check, check, and check.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occurred. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Put UC in check and keep it there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Life, diabetes. Each day is a unique blend of going, doing, and living. Lucerna Protein Smart with 30 grams of protein to help keep you moving. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady to help manage blood sugar response. Lucerna, bring on the day.
Even on a bright day, all I could see was darkness.
I think my life just stopped the pain. Went from a fantasy to something I thought was just a matter of time.
I was exhausted. I had nothing left. I was done.
I felt so alone.
You're not alone in the fight against depression. Join more than 1 million men who have visited headsupguys.org and found the support, tools, and strategies needed for recovering from depression. Headsupguys.org. Better starts here.
The Navy League of Canada is welcoming new cadets to join our youth program for 9 to 12-year-olds. Navy League cadets discover the thrill of the sea and the joy of lifelong friendships. Develop leadership skills, discipline, and resilience that will shape their future. Visit our website or call us today to learn about the exciting journey of Navy League cadets and the oceans of opportunities. Ask a parent before going online. The Navy League of Canada, empowering the leaders of tomorrow.
I'm Sarah Seidner in Tel Aviv. This is CNN.
Welcome back. The Texas Rangers, if you can believe it, are one win away from the team's first potential World Series title. Andy Scholes has this morning's Bleacher Report. Andy, always great to see you.
Yeah, good morning, Casey. So the Rangers, they're one of 6 teams that have never won a World Series. The others are the Rockies, Brewers, Padres, Mariners, and Rays. But the Rangers' 62-year wait may be over as soon as tonight. Now, Texas getting brutal news before Game 4 that their breakout star this postseason, Aroldis Garcia, would not be able to play the rest of the series with an injured oblique. But it didn't matter. The Rangers offense just on fire in this one. Corey Seager added again. This 2-run home run made it 5-0 in the second inning. Then in the next inning, Marcus Semien comes to the plate, gets a hold of this one for a 3-run home run. Rangers score 5 in the second, 5 in the third, all with 2 outs. They're the first team ever to score 5 runs in consecutive World Series innings. Texas would win easily, 11-7. They're the only team ever to go 10-0 on the road in a postseason, now find themselves a win away from a World Series title.
This is where we want to be. It's a one game at a time mentality, so we get some rest tonight and understand that we need to focus on what we need to do to win the ball game, and that's all there is to it. We win the ball game, we get a ring.
Yeah, Game 5 tonight at 8 Eastern. All right, to the NBA, Spurs #1 overall pick, Victor Wembanyama having some fun dressing up as Slender Man before taking on the Suns on Halloween. Kevin Durant getting his 27,000th career point in this one with this big dunk here with under a minute to go. He's the 12th player ever to reach that mark. Now, his Suns had a huge 20-point lead in the third quarter, but the Spurs come all the way back. Devin Vassell misses the 3 here, but Wemby there with the putback dunk. He finished with 18 points. Spurs down just 1 now. But then Durant, he gets trapped in the corner here off the inbound. Keldon Johnson's going to eventually steal the ball, take it in for the layup for the go-ahead bucket. Spurs rally from down 10 in the final 5 minutes to win a wild one, 115-114 the final. All right, in the NFL, meanwhile, we have our first coach fired this season. The Raiders letting Josh McDaniels go, less than 2 years on the job. Owner Mark Davis also firing the GM yesterday. Vegas 3-5 so far this season. They were 9-16 overall under McDaniels. All right, first college football playoff rankings coming out last night, and the biggest surprise, 2-time defending champion and undefeated Georgia, they were second behind Ohio State. Bulldogs have been ranked #1 in the AP poll all year long. Michigan and Florida State, they round out the field of 4. Pac-12 in its final year doing pretty well. Got Washington and Oregon right there at 5 and 6. All right, finally, Deion Sanders says that the Rose Bowl should reimburse his players after their valuables and jewelry were stolen from their locker room during last Saturday's game against UCLA.
These are college kids. I'm pretty sure they don't think about insurance at this point in this juncture in their life. We've talked about NILs and how to really maintain their finances. We've pretty much given them financial planners and giving them the resources for that. But the insurance part of it, we slipped. This is the Rose Bowl. They said the granddaddy of them all, right? I'm sure granddaddy had some money.
Deion joking there, but I mean, Casey, I'm serious. The Pasadena police say they're investigating this, and it's such a shame that, you know, while the players are out there on the field giving it their all, someone went in their locker room and stole their stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a really disappointing thing, especially for that team under Deion Sanders. Andy, can we talk for one quick second about, I just want to say, I don't understand how Ohio is #1 at anything. Maybe that's just a little thing for Phil Mattingly. Go Blue. But seriously, what's up with that?
You know, that was quite surprising. I think they're just impressed with their wins so far this season, and maybe there's some Georgia fatigue. I don't know. They're probably just looking for some headlines, Casey, right? If they just put Georgia 1, that's boring, right? Let's put Ohio State there and get people talking.
Andy, thank you so much. I am Casey Hunt. Don't go anywhere. CNN This Morning starts right now.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We begin with breaking news. I'm Poppy Harlow with Phil Mattingly in New York. And just breaking this morning, Americans and hundreds of other foreign nationals who have been trapped in Gaza could be getting out imminently. The same with injured civilians. You were looking at live pictures of the Rafah crossing this morning.
Ambulances have been rushing there, and crowds of people have been gathering after sources tell CNN Qatar has brokered a deal with Hamas, Israel, and Egypt to allow up to 500 foreign nationals to leave Gaza and enter Egypt. We're told the deal does not include hostages held by Hamas. We have team coverage from Tel Aviv to the White House. Let's start with Salma Abdulaziz in London. Salma, what are we learning about this actual deal? Who can get out and when?
So we understand that this is a deal that has been mediated by Qatar, of course, in coordination with Egypt and the United States, Hamas, and Israel. And this is a deal that people have just been hoping, wishing, and praying for weeks now. We're into the 4th week of the conflict. We've seen days and days of people just sitting at the Rafah crossing, hoping for it to open. Now we understand that it will open imminently. We don't have a clear timeline, but we understand that we could see up to 500 foreign nationals cross today. We also could potentially see several injured people, injured Palestinians. Some 80 injured Palestinians potentially could be part of this deal as well. These would be the first Palestinians allowed to leave the Gaza Strip since the conflict began just after October 7th. We did have images of ambulances, and I think you're playing those now. 80 ambulances just waiting at that crossing. This is a major breakthrough, one that President Biden had been working on, one that the White House had been working on, one that, again, these families have been desperate to see. But you have to remember, there are still 2 million people who are trapped in Gaza who do not have the option that this small group, this 500, potentially up to 500 nationals, do have to come through. But it is a sign of a diplomatic breakthrough, and I'm sure for those mediators, hope that negotiations could move further along with hostages and other issues. And it's really important, Salma, that you point out also that this is not about the hostages being held and how they're going to make the distinction between those 80 or so that are injured enough to be able to leave and all of the others is an impossible task. Talk about the Rafah crossing, because there are 2 checkpoints they would have to go through. Yes, so the Rafah crossing is extremely important because you have to remember that the Gaza Strip has been blockaded now for more than 15 years. It's closed off on the Israeli side, it's closed off on the Egyptian side. Very few Palestinians, even before this conflict, would have the permissions to leave the Gaza Strip. The Rafah crossing is one of those very few places, and now, because of course the Israeli side being closed and that complete siege announced right after October 7th, it is the one and
human-only crossing. And what we've seen over the course of the last few weeks is sort of chaos at that crossing, to be frank, because we've seen families lining up day after day, including our own CNN producer, Ibrahim Zahman, among those families, time and time again, going to that crossing, hoping it would open. There were explosions, airstrikes near that crossing. Aid groups were warning that the roads around that crossing were also damaged. So there has been a great deal of contention, if you will, and tension around that Rafah border crossing. And for many of these families, again, that have been waiting now for more than 3 weeks, the question will be, well, why did it take so long to get us out? And yes, they're going to have to cross through this territory that, again, has been damaged, according to Egyptian officials, in the course of the last few weeks. They're going to have to go through multiple checkpoints, multiple security checks to get across to the other side. The select number of wounded, again, we are hearing only about 80 wounded, and you have to remember there's thousands of wounded people inside the Gaza Strip. The 80 wounded will also go through intense security checks. Those ambulances are waiting on the other side. It's a very active border in the last few days because you also have aid going in, that very small trickle of aid. But this will be important to see these mechanisms take place, to see these wheels start to turn. And again, for mediators, a sign of hope for progress in the future.
Yeah, a real sign of hope. Salma, thank you for that breaking news reporting.
And joining us now, CNN military analyst Colonel Cedric Leighton. Colonel Leighton, this has been the center point of intensive diplomatic discussions. It's also been a place of hopes and hopes dashed over the course of the last several weeks. Americans being told they might be able to leave and then never actually finding an open border. How does this actually work in terms of getting out of Gaza and into Egypt?
Well, good morning, Phil. The big area here is really that right here at the Rafah crossing, what Salma was talking about, this is the area where they have to go through. And as Salma was mentioning, there are multiple checkpoints here. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking for, to make sure that no Hamas fighters get over this way, because the key thing here is security for the Egyptians as well as for the Israelis and, of course, actually for Hamas. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to move the foreign nationals, and they're trying to also move the wounded people, the 80 or so wounded people that will be in those ambulances that we saw earlier. So this is the kind of thing that's going to make a big difference. And Phil, when you look at the way this is going to go, it's going to be a test for the diplomatic efforts that have been going on between the White House, the Egyptians, Hamas, and of course Qatar. So these are the kinds of things that will really make a difference on the ground for a select few people, but the misery in Gaza will continue.
How significant, Colonel, that Qatar, it appears, was able to broker this? And we're not talking about a handful of people. Salma's reporting is some 500 foreign nationals and also about 80 pretty severely injured Palestinians.
Yeah, that's going to be a really big thing, because what the Qatari Foreign Ministry was able to do is work with people that really don't want to talk to each other. And that's the key thing. When you look at Hamas and you look at Israel, two intransigent parties in this particular thing, in this particular conflict, and you are looking at really an ability to get people who need to get out of a very intense conflict zone. With this crossing not being open, basically this is an open-air prison still. For these 500 people and the 80 injured, this is going to be, I think, a major break for them, and hopefully it will allow them to achieve safety and get out of the danger zone.
Colonel Leighton, thank you. We'll get back to you very soon. So the Israeli military revealing new details about the extent of its bombardment in Gaza. The IDF is now saying 11,000 terrorist targets, not people, have been hit since the start of the war. That includes the recent bombing of Gaza's largest refugee camp, which has triggered concern and condemnation from around the world. Look at that. Eyewitnesses are describing a horrific scene in Jabalia. A warning, the images are very hard to watch.
One witness tells CNN it felt like the end of the world, with 7 to 8 huge craters filled with dead people and body parts. Another witness says he saw children carrying other injured children. The Israeli military is defending the strike and saying it killed the top Hamas commander. Joining us now from Tel Aviv is CNN correspondent Rafael Romo. Rafael, how is the IDF responding to very, very unequivocal backlash against this attack on a refugee camp?
Phil and Poppy, good morning. Well, first and foremost, the Israel Defense Forces say it was not an attack against the civilian population. The intended target was a senior Hamas commander who was hiding in that location, as well as numerous militants with the Islamist organization. Hamas denies that the commander was even there at the time. IDF spokesman Jonathan Conricus told CNN earlier that they hit a tunnel complex buried underground where the commander was hiding. Later, the IDF claimed that fighter jets acting on intelligence killed Ibrahim Biari, who was the commander of Hamas Central Jabalia Battalion and one of the leaders responsible for the October 7 terrorist attacks in Israel, adding that numerous militants were also hit in the strike. This is how the Israel Defense Forces responded to the criticism about the civilian casualties. Let's take a listen.
In this specific attack, we were targeting an important military commander, therefore there could be no warning before. We struck the target. What we did here was to strike with the acquired or the required amount of firepower in order to get to where he was hiding, in order to achieve a military achievement that supports the overall aim of the war. That is why this was struck. It is both legitimate and an important military strike to do. I understand that the pictures are difficult. I understand that our human feelings when seeing suffering, we relate to that.
Phil and Poppy, Conricus went on to say that trying to use civilians as human shields when it is a common practice for Hamas, he said, it's a war crime just as much as not allowing civilians to evacuate from a combat area, which the militant Islamist group has also done. Back to you.
Rafael, has the IDF presented evidence that they indeed were able to take out that Hamas target? And has there been an actual number given on all of the civilian deaths from this?
Yeah, no evidence so far. That's one of the questions that we've been asking. Show us the evidence that actually that commander was there. So far, they haven't been able to do that. But in the past couple of weeks, they have also claimed that they hunted down and killed. They published a list of 32 alleged members of Hamas leadership, and it is very difficult to verify their claims. Also, we have to talk about the fact that because it is a war zone, it is just impossible to verify for us. So there's nothing that we can tell you at this point to verify that information.
Rafael Roma, thank you for the reporting for us live from Tel Aviv this morning. I had a student at Cornell University has been charged in connection to really severe online threats made against the Jewish community there. Those details ahead.
And Secretary of State Antony Blinken about to head back to Israel. Protesters interrupted his testimony before a Senate committee yesterday as they called for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. More just ahead. We are continuing to follow the breaking news that a deal was reached to release foreign nationals and critically injured civilians from Gaza. We will keep you posted. Stay with us.
Hey, human, what if you could accomplish something instead of endlessly following up? How about if you collaborated with other humans in other departments? What if making a project template was quicker than putting on work pants? What if you could keep up with projects without chasing other humans down? What if how humans work actually worked for humans? Operate at peak human. Smart Cheat.
Every detail counts. That's why I live my life with Lexi B2 hearing aids powered by Bose. When I began experiencing hearing loss, I knew I needed the best of the best. Lexi B2 hearing aids powered by Bose are app-controlled and self-fitting, which means I can tune and customize them to my needs and preferences on the Lexi app and enjoy high-quality hearing. Take the lead and call or order online at lexihearing.com to receive your Lexi B2 hearing aids powered by Bose today.
The holdovers are the students at the legendary Barton Academy with nowhere to go for the holidays.
Your task is to ensure the boy's safety in good condition and pretend to be a human being.
For 2 weeks, they're stuck with him.
Hey, gentlemen!
From the director of The Descendants and Sideways.
Well, let's make the best of it.
Are you trying to look down my shirt?
No. Yes, you're gonna get me fired.
The Holdovers, rated R, now playing in select theaters. In theaters everywhere November 10th.
Spend less time making drinks and more time making memories. Introducing Bartesian. The perfect pour every time. For every cocktail at your party.
Get our best Black Friday deal now. Only at Bartesian.com/drinks.
I was stuck. Unresolved depression symptoms were in my way. I needed more from my antidepressant. Vraylar helped give it a lift.
Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. And in Vraylar clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults, report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Stomach and sleep issues, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks.
I didn't have to change my treatment. I just gave it a lift.
Ask about Vraylar and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
This tiny payment thing is a giant pain. Hi, ladies. Alex from US Bank. Can she help? How about a comprehensive point-of-sale system
that can track inventory, manage schedules,
and customize orders? That's what US Bank Business Essentials is for.
What about a new oven? Can US Bank help us there?
We can serve loans in as fast as 12 minutes. That would be a big help.
Huge.
Jumbo. Ginormous.
Finding ways to make your business boom. That's what US Bank is for. We'll get there together.
You are looking at live pictures right now of the Rafah crossing in southern Gaza into Egypt that has really been impassable for so many desperate to leave Gaza. But there is breaking news this morning. Sources tell CNN that Qatar has brokered a deal between Israel and Hamas for the release of potentially hundreds of foreign nationals and some critically injured civilians from Gaza. We, of course, will keep you posted as we learn more.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who has been integral in long-time negotiations over opening that border crossing, he's going to return to Israel this week to meet with government officials. It will mark his third visit since Israel's war against Hamas began after the October 7th terrorist attack. And it comes as President Biden and his top national security officials are increasingly facing tough questions about Israel's commitment to minimizing civilian casualties, despite the rapidly mounting death toll and the bloody scenes we're continuously seeing out of Gaza. Blinken also testified before senators yesterday in defense of the White House's $105 billion emergency aid package for both Israel and Ukraine. That tightrope walk of supporting Israel while outrage of civilian casualty grows was evident. The hearing repeatedly interrupted by angry protesters demanding a ceasefire. Watch.
Ceasefire now! I beg you! Ceasefire now!
Secretary Blinken, you may continue.
President Biden has so far resisted calls for a ceasefire and refuses to denounce Israel's tactics, making clear that, in his view, Israel has a, quote, responsibility to defend its citizens from terrorism. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez is live at the White House with more. Priscilla, particularly in the wake of the strike in Jabalia, the refugee camp, this underscores that almost impossible balancing act. What's the White House saying right now?
It does, Phil, and it really vividly captures the tightrope that you were just mentioning, where U.S. officials maintain that Israel is trying to protect civilian lives, but at the same time, these images of this destruction in Gaza is fueling that public outrage. And that weighs heavy here at the White House among senior officials. And that also goes from the president all the way on down. In fact, this was something that had come up over the weekend in a phone call between President Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which was again reiterating that Israel has a right to defend itself, but it also has to do all it can to follow the rules of war and also protect innocent civilians. And up until this point, what we often see from U.S. officials is that demonstrating empathy with these images while also making it clear that Israel has the right to defend itself, particularly after those attacks in October. To get a glimpse of that, take a listen to what National Security spokesperson John Kirby had to say just yesterday.
Unlike Russia and Ukraine, and unlike what Hamas did on the 7th of October, the killing of civilians is not a war aim of Israel. I'm not denying that it's happening. Of course it is. What I can tell you is that we have indications that they are trying. I'm not predicting that on any given day they aren't going to fail to meet their own expectations about killing civilians. Sadly, our own experience as a military over the last 20 years has shown us that even with our best intentions and all the efforts that we put in to avoiding civilian casualties, we still cause them. And it's tragic each and every time.
Now, aides to the president believe that those warnings are delivered in tougher conversations in private than they are publicly, but all the same, Phil, the reality that the White House is facing here is that there are rifts within the president's own party about the response, and that the public support for Israel could erode in time. All of that weighing heavy here at the White House.
That's weighing heavy, particularly on the diplomatic side of things, but at home on the domestic front, there is a battle right now over the president's $105 billion emergency aid request. Includes $60 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel. The White House has now issued a veto threat on the Republican proposal, right?
That's right. And so that Republican proposal doesn't include Ukraine. It's only Israel. And this was already set up for a collision course within the Senate. And now here at the White House, and the White House coming out just last night saying that the bill is bad for Israel, for the Middle East region, and for our national security. And if it gets to the president's desk, he will veto it. And Phil, remember, the president had delivered remarks in October about this supplemental, making clear to Americans that these conflicts that are playing out abroad are not just faraway conflicts. They do affect national security here in the U.S. And the White House has had to ratchet up their own support, public support for this supplemental. And so this veto would be, again, for this bill that only includes aid to Israel, and just making clear, again, the stance that it needs to include aid to both Israel and Ukraine for matters of national security.
Priscilla Alvarez, live for us in the North Lawn. Thank you.
All right, a significant update for you on the breaking news this morning. A Western official confirming to CNN Americans are not expected to be among the first batch of people allowed to leave Gaza today. It was unclear when they would be allowed to leave. It is expected Americans will be allowed to leave later this week, according to the official. We just don't know when. Again, this is developing as we speak, and we'll continue to follow it very, very closely.
And as we do continue to follow that breaking news at the Rafah crossing this morning, watching it very closely, keep in mind there's also domestic news as well here in New York. This morning, Donald Trump Jr. is expected to kick off the Trump family testimony in that civil fraud trial. What to expect? That's ahead.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
Yes, a quality solid wood bed frame can be affordable. Introducing Avocado's City Bed Frame with a modern, low-profile design, optional headboard, and easy tool-free assembly. Add a matching nightstand, an adjustable base, and one of Avocado's certified organic mattresses to create a natural oasis. Shop today with Avocado Green, proud supporter of 1% for the planet.
We just signed the lease on our third shop. I guess we're a chain now, right? We've worked so hard to get here. My assistant went to CustomInk.com to get our new uniforms and merch with all the location names. Our custom gear helps him get our brand out into the community. He takes care of all of our custom ink orders. He was able to find great products, upload the new art, and have boxes sent directly to each of the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at CustomInk.com.
Struggling with the highs and lows of bipolar 1? Ask about Vraylar. Because you are greater than your bipolar 1. And you can help take control of your symptoms with Vraylar. Some medicines only treat the lows or highs. Vraylar treats depressive, acute manic, and mixed episodes of bipolar 1 in adults. Proven full-spectrum relief for all bipolar 1 symptoms.
And in VRAYLAR clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Call your doctor about unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles or confusion, which may mean a life-threatening reaction, or uncontrollable muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Sleepiness and stomach issues are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. Ask about VRAYLAR and learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Now, ADT professionally installs Google Nest products.
Cool. You're all set.
So your home is safe and smart. You can check in on your home.
Arm the system, we should go.
Manage your system from virtually anywhere. And get intelligent alerts like when a package has arrived. When the most trusted name in home security adds the intelligence of Google, you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
From the moment you touch down in Victoria, you'll know you're in a world apart. This is a place like no other. Let your curiosity lead you through unforgettable moments, where you're connected to nature, each other, and a local culture full of creativity and history that welcomes everyone. Your story unfolds in Victoria.
Join me on my perfect feel-good vacation adventure in Penticton, BC. Well, that might leave a mark. And I did it all fuel-free. Almost. Wow, this is gorgeous.
I'm Wolf Blitzer in Tel Aviv, Israel, and this is CNN.
We're showing you live pictures of the Rafah border crossing. It has been a critical point of discussion, often frustration over the course of the last several weeks as American citizens, Palestinians being told to evacuate Gaza or move from the northern part of Gaza across the board have been looking to get out, have been unable to do so. Now we understand, according to our reporting, there is a deal brokered by Qatari officials that would allow for up to 400 or 500 foreign nationals to exit, along with 80 or so wounded Gaza residents. We are keeping you posted on the latest as we continue to learn more on this breaking news.
Meantime, Donald Trump Jr. is expected to take the stand and testify today. The former president's eldest son will testify in this $250 million New York civil fraud trial. Don Jr. and his brother Eric are executive vice presidents at the Trump Organization, also defendants in this case. The New York Attorney General accuses them of fraudulently inflating their father's net worth to obtain financial benefits like better loans and insurance policy terms. Bryn Gingras, following this trial, joins us this morning outside of the courthouse. He's going to take the stand. What are prosecutors trying to get from him?
Hey, Poppy, good morning. Yeah, remember the judge in this case has already ruled that Donald Trump Jr., his brother Eric, his father Donald Trump, the former president, they're all liable for fraud, but they're also trying to prove that they all work together to create this fraudulent scheme over decades. So they're going to have to answer questions to that. And to what you just said, Donald Trump Jr. and his brother Eric took on expanded roles at Trump Org when their father took on the presidency. So there's going to be a lot of questions about what role did they play? What did they know about the preparation of these financial documents? Now, listen, in a former deposition done by Donald Trump Jr. by the Attorney General's office, he said, I went to business school, but I didn't actually prepare these documents. I just relied on my legal departments, the accounting departments to prepare these documents, and then I would sign off on them. So we'll see how he expands on that. Certainly, we're going to see the, documents being put into evidence today that they are going to have to answer too, and it will behoove them to answer those questions, because in the civil trial, taking the fifth or not answering questions could, look to the judge as if they're basically just, not wanting to be truthful about this testimony. So we are expecting Don Jr. to take the stand sometime this afternoon. Trump likely will happen tomorrow, but it's important to note here that the former president isn't expected to be in the courtroom for his son's testimony both today and tomorrow. So we'll see how this all shakes out in the coming days, guys.
Okay, Bryn, thank you for following it. Appreciate it. Phil.
Well, we are continuing to follow that breaking news. Multiple sources telling CNN Qatar has brokered a deal to help get foreign nationals out of Gaza through that Rafah border crossing. This is separate, of course, from the hostage negotiations. Western officials tell Kevin Liptak and myself that Americans will not be among the first group released, but they are expected to be able to leave in the coming days.
And Israel this morning defending its bombardment and the deadly strike on the crowded refugee camp in Gaza, saying they were targeting a key Hamas leader.
We are seeing something that we have not seen yet ever in American history. A speaker pushed out. It's the biggest FU to Republican voters I've ever seen.
Things are very heated right now, very emotional.
Will this ever be over?
Minutes from now, there could be a new House Speaker.
Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, just elected.
Republicans say they are finally ready to move ahead and put aside the ugly chapter.
Our stock's tanking.
Well, you need to holistically re-optimize revenue streams for pre-emerging markets. Not to mention the integration of cloud-ready meta service functionalities.
And of course, synergy.
Ever wonder where the people with all the answers get all the answers? Ask Markham, accountants and advisors.
Hi, I'm Ideal and I lost 90 pounds on Golo. I struggled with weight loss and weight gain my entire life. With all the yo-yo dieting I did in the past, I would lose 20, 30, 50 pounds just to gain them over and over again. In 1 year, I've lost 5 sizes and I'm on my way to lose another 3. With Golo, I can do it.
Change your life at golo.com. That's GOLO.com.
Sleep more deeply and wake up rejuvenated. Purple Mattress's exclusive Gel Flex Grid draws away heat, relieves pressure, and instantly adapts. Sleep better, live Purple. Right now, save up to $900 off mattress sets during Purple's Black Friday sale. Visit purple.com or a store near you today.
Nikki Haley's record on China, as Governor Haley rolled out the red carpet for Chinese companies.
They want to do business in South Carolina. Our home, your home.
She gave them millions in tax breaks, subsidies, free land. The Communist Party-owned high-tech company got 200 acres, 5 miles from an army base.
I think China is really in good faith doing quite a bit. They are a really great friend of ours.
Nikki Haley, questionable judgment, dangerous from China. Never back down is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The first time you connected your GoDaddy website and your store was also the first time you realized.
Well, we can do anything. Cheesecake cookies? The cookie!
Manage all your sales from one place with a burner that always puts you first. Start today at GoDaddy.com.
Ian will find the true meaning of the holiday sweater.
I will?
Because he went to Michael's and got everything he needed to make a one-of-a-kind crew neck you could never get off the rack. Turn ideas into I did it.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper is appointment viewing on Sunday nights. One whole story, one whole hour. The world's best journalists dig deeper into the stories they can't ignore. The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
What if you could get rid of your kitchen garbage at the push of a button? Lomi can take your food waste and turn them into nutrient-rich fertilizer that you can feed your plants. Get your Lomi today and join the movement.
What does human talent look like?
Just go on Fiverr, see for yourself.
Imagine working with them.
Yeah, imagine that.
I'm Arlette Steins at the White House, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning is brought to you by CSL. The Creosote Sweeping Log helps clean your chimney.
You've probably been meaning to clean your chimney. With CSL, it's so easy. Burn just once every 60 fires. CSL, the log with the chimney sweep on the box.
But we are following the breaking news this morning. You're looking at the Rafah border crossing where Americans and hundreds of other foreign nationals who have been trapped in Gaza could soon finally have a pathway out. Same with critically injured civilians. You're looking at these live pictures. Ambulances have been rushing there, and crowds of people have been gathering after sources tell CNN Qatar has brokered a deal with Hamas, Israel, Egypt, and the U.S. government to allow up to 500 foreign nationals to leave Gaza and enter Egypt. We're told, of course, important caveat here, the deal does not include actual hostages held by Hamas. Joining us now is CNN military analyst Lieutenant Colonel Cedric Layton. Colonel Layton, we have talked so much about this border crossing and the frustrations related to its closure. How will this actually work for those foreign nationals who've been waiting for weeks?
Yeah, so Phil, the big deal for them here is actually when they move down to this area and they get a green light to come into Egypt through the Rafah crossing. These people have, many of them, have actually had to come from northern Gaza all the way down through the Khan Yunis area down into the Rafah area where they've been waiting. They were told by the Israelis to evacuate this area and move down into the southern part right here. So how they're going to do that is they will go through on foot through the border crossing. There will hopefully be buses or some other form of transportation for them on the Egyptian side of the border. Those buses may be arranged by the Egyptian government, or they may be arranged by the consulate/embassies of the countries that they're nationals of. So that's the kind of thing that happens. They'll go through the security process at this Rafah gate, and that will involve processes possibly by Hamas as well as by the Egyptians, and the Israelis will also be involved in that. So it's going to be a very intricate ballet dance that is going to take place at this point.
Colonel Lake, just remind people, that is in southern Gaza. I was just going to say the strike on the refugee camp, the Israeli strike on the refugee camp late yesterday, is in the north. And so presumably these ambulances crossing, et cetera, would not be able to help all of the people injured there, right?
That is correct. And keep in mind, Poppy, that the number of people that are going to be moved by ambulance is probably around 80 based on the reporting that we have right now. And given that fact, it's going to be a very, very small portion of the wounded people. These should be critically injured people that can be helped by medical care in Egypt in a more sophisticated hospital environment than what they're able to do in Gaza at the moment because of the war that's going on there. And the Israeli attacks, which you're right, they concentrated primarily on the north to get people out of here at this particular point in time and move them down there in time to cross that border. That's going to be extremely tough to do and really impossible. They're going to have to wait. Anybody who's injured in the latest airstrikes is going to have to wait before they can cross that border if they need that kind of care.
And looking at those images of the craters caused by the strike that we have seen, and we know, as we're still trying to get a final count, a high number of casualties in that refugee camp. Colonel Layton, thank you.
You bet.
We've been talking about this breaking news, the deal brokered by Qatar to allow foreign nationals to leave Gaza. We are told hostages are not part of that deal. We'll be joined by someone who has been involved in the hostage negotiations prior with Hamas next.
And people across the U.S. have been putting up posters of the more than 200 Israelis who were kidnapped to bring attention to what is going on in Israel and Gaza. It's a task that has become more difficult, but many of those posters now being ripped down.
To see them taken down was another hit. They don't have a voice right now, and what we're trying to do is give them one, and they're being silenced.
This is spring semester, and Fairfield Sassoon Unified. They switched to Google Tools for education because there's never been a reported ransomware attack on a Chromebook. Now they're focused on learning, knowing that their data is secure.
Tired of sciatic nerve pain radiating down your leg and lower back? Get relief, finally, with MagnaLife Leg and Back Pain Relief Cream. Fast acting, and yes, it really works. So get living.
Available at your local retailer.
ADT Self-Setup, featuring Google Nest products. Now you can easily install your system that's backed by ADT's 24/7 monitoring with no long-term contracts. So you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
The all-new Ergo Smart Base from Tempur-Pedic automatically responds to snoring, so no more nudging your partner or hiding under your pillow. Because this system actually detects snoring, then adjusts to help reduce it.
Entresto is the #1 heart failure brand prescribed by cardiologists. It was proven superior at helping people stay alive and out of the hospital. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. And don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto for heart failure.
Unnecessary action hero.
Missing punches.
Unnecessary.
Check reverses.
Unnecessary.
Timesheet correction.
Unnecessary.
Unentered sick time. Unnecessary. Go! Go! When you can take this phone, you'll be ready. Make the unnecessary unnecessary. Let your employees do their own payroll.
When it comes to remodeling your bath, there's fact and there's fiction. Fiction, it's too expensive to remodel your bath. Fact, with Bathfitter's tub-over-tub process and hundreds of design options, you'll get the bath you want to fit your budget. Fiction, bath remodels take forever and tear the house apart. Fact, Bathfitter installation takes just 1 day to fit your schedule. Get the bath that fits you. Bathfitter, it just fits. Go to bathfitter.com to book your free consultation.
Custom Ink helps us celebrate and drive our students' achievements with custom gear. They love Custom Ink's different styles and designs. We love how Custom Ink makes the process simple with their easy-to-use design lab, expert artists ready to help, and unbeatable customer service. Custom Ink allows our kids to show everyone their accomplishments and the pride they have in our school. When we place an order, I know they got our back, so we can focus on the kids.
Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I'm genetically predisposed.
I just gave birth. I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
We test our formulations with the highest rigor of clinical trials, and we're the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement.
I noticed it becoming
stronger and thicker.
Nutrafol has taken me back to the hair I was meant to have.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
I wish for the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro. Sean.
Do you mean this one? The one with titanium? It's so light, don't touch it. Maybe stealing wishes from the birthday boy's not your best plan. Switch to Verizon and get iPhone 15 Pro on them. What? Yep, and on an amazing network.
And I don't have to ruin any more birthday parties.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. Let's go get you that iPhone. Here we go. Come on now.
Get iPhone 15 Pro, Apple TV 4K, and 6 months of Apple One. All 3 on us. Only on Verizon.
New this morning, sources tell CNN that Qatar has brokered a deal between Israel, Hamas, and Egypt in coordination with the United States to release all foreign nationals being held in Gaza, along with critically injured civilians. This deal, we should note, is separate from any hostage negotiations. Hamas claims that it will release some of these foreign nationals it's currently holding as hostages in the coming days. We will see. They did not specify which nationalities or how many hostages they would release or exactly when. Joining us now is Gershom Baskin. He helped negotiate the release of Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit from Hamas captivity in 2011 after being held for 5 years, and he was exchanged for more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. Thank you so much, Gershom, for being with us, for your expertise. When you think about what it took to get him out, to get Gilad Shalit out, I think it was 1,027 Palestinian prisoners, one of whom went on to lead Hamas. Currently, the families, many of them are calling on, of the hostages, on Netanyahu to trade all of the Palestinian prisoners, estimated to be about 6,000 in Israel, for their loved ones. Is there any chance that happens?
There is a chance that it could happen because the weight of the families of the hostages and their message to the Israeli public is gaining support within Israeli society. 3 weeks ago, no one was thinking about the hostages. They were all thinking about dismantling Hamas's ability to govern and threaten Israel. And today, while I haven't seen accurate polling on this, my impression is that more than half the society is backing the families of the hostages and saying that Israel has a moral responsibility to bring back all these hostages. We're talking about women and children, infants, elderly people, sick people, wounded people. This is something that Israel has a responsibility to bring home because Israel failed to protect them. the major function of any country is to provide defense and security for their citizens, and Israel failed these 240 people and has a responsibility to bring them home with a great price, and it's a huge dilemma for the Israeli government.
You've said since this started that you've had contact with Hamas officials or Hamas contacts. When was the last time you spoke to them? Have you been given any insight into what an actual strategy is at this point?
Yeah, they've gone on radio silence over the last 3.5 days. I haven't received any responses from them, and I've been communicating with people in Gaza, in Beirut, and in Doha, including some people who are members of the leadership. That might be an indication that things are at a very sensitive and intensive stage of negotiations, but it also might be that they are irrelevant and have nothing to say about what's being negotiated. Because at the end of the day, the decisions are going to be taken in Hamas by the military wing of Hamas, and they're located in tunnels deep underneath the Gaza Strip.
The release that we're hearing that Qatar brokered of foreign nationals, not hostages, that is coming today, our reporting is at the Rafah crossing. Does that, Gershon, indicate anything to you about where Hamas's mindset is vis-a-vis hostages? Or do you view the two as completely separate?
They're completely separate. We're talking about Palestinian nationals who have second passports. There are a few thousand of them. It's not a major exodus of Gaza of Palestinian people, but they are Palestinians who have French passports or US passports or British passports or probably 30 or 40 different nations, and they are nationals of other countries. Some of those countries have fought very hard to get the agreement of everyone to allow them to leave. I think there's been internal pressure on Hamas within Gaza to allow people to leave who have foreign passports. It has nothing to do with the hostages. And when Hamas says that they are thinking about releasing foreign national hostages, they are not talking about Israelis with dual passports. They're talking about the Thai workers who they took. They're talking about Nepali and Filipino caretakers who were taken along with Israeli hostages. For Hamas, there's no difference between an Israeli with a second passport and an Israeli with no other passport.
You noted that this is kind of up to the military wing to some degree. People might not recognize that there is a political wing, there's a military wing. They are located in different places. They are often in the midst of different discussions. There's also multiple groups holding hostages, or at least more than one. Do you believe there is a centralized place for Qatari officials, U.S. officials, Israeli officials to actually go to negotiate at this point?
I think it's very difficult, and it's impossible to determine who's really in charge of making the decisions at the end of the day. In Gaza, there is little difference between the political wing and the military wing. There's a great overlapping of them. The military wing of Hamas could not have done what they did on October 7th without the agreement and knowledge with at least the most senior leaders of the political wing. Yahya Sinwar, the political leader of Gaza, was released in the Shalit deal in 2011, and there's no question that he is part of the decision-making process of the military wing. But as you said, apparently Islamic Jihad and PFLP and individuals are holding hostages as well, and it's not 100% clear that Hamas has control of all of the hostages.
Gershon Baskin, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Well, the uptick in anti-Semitic sentiment in this country is bleeding into more facets of everyday life. Even efforts to make the world aware of some of the people believed to be captured by Hamas comes with pushback. CNN's Camille Bernal reports.
So we can start on one side and come back on the next.
The goal is to raise awareness to those kidnapped in Israel by showing their faces, names, and ages.
This is a 12-year-old boy who was supposed to have his celebration with his family, and instead they can't even say happy birthday. They don't know if he's alive, they don't know how they are.
But after Reichman puts these up, sometimes in minutes, they're ripped off.
To see them taken down was another hit. To see faces of innocent civilians who were taken from their homes, they don't have a voice right now. And what we're trying to do is give them one. And they're being silenced.
And in some cases, it's personal.
It's not only that I've seen the people tear down the posters on videos, I actually witnessed it with my own eyes. I struggled myself walking in the streets of Manhattan and Brooklyn, and people were so so hateful towards me. People curse me, people threatens me on social media, threatening my life.
Nitzan Mitz and her partner created the posters. The Israeli citizens were in New York for an art program, but after the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel that killed 1,400, they felt they had to do something. So they stopped their program and started the Kidnapped from Israel project.
And then after we uploaded it to our social media, people just downloaded it. So for us, it was like a miracle.
A miracle and a curse.
The anti-Semitism is rising above any nightmare I ever thought.
She feels it in New York, and Adva feels it in California.
We are not foreign to anti-Semitism. This is not a new concept. I've known this, I've experienced this, I've felt this for years. But the louder they get, the louder we have to get. It just hurts.
But it's not stopping them.
Abba, let's put another one here.
Even when the posters are taken down, they come back and do it again.
Judaism and Israel is about human life, and we value and cherish human life. So until they're back, you're going to see these posters.
Camila Bernal, CNN, Los Angeles.
Our thanks to Camila for that reporting. Meantime, FBI Director Christopher Wray says it is becoming more and more dangerous for Jewish Americans and that anti-Semitism is nearing historic levels.
And we are watching the Rafah border and the breaking news about a deal brokered to allow foreign nationals to leave Gaza, and that comes as Israeli officials are defending their strike on a refugee camp in northern Gaza, saying they were targeting a Hamas commander. The number killed is still unclear, but eyewitnesses say it will be significant. We're going to speak to a spokesman for the Israel Defense Forces ahead. Stay with us.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines, taking you to the heart of the story.
We start with breaking news for you this evening. We are just about 3 miles from the Gaza border.
And breaking through the noise.
Interesting conversation about where we are in America right now.
The day's biggest stories.
What we have been seeing in Israel is unprecedented.
The night's most essential reporting.
It's not about what I believe, it's about whether there is evidence.
This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
Brenda used to worry about stained teeth. Now,
It's swishy time.
she uses TheraBreath whitening mouthwash to help remove and prevent stains.
It's non-burning and non-irritating, just like us.
Try TheraBreath mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash. The first time you made a sale online with GoDaddy was also the first time you heard of a town named Dinosaur, Colorado.
Just got an order from Dinosaur, Colorado.
Start an easy-to-build, powerful website for free with a partner that always puts you first. Start for free at GoDaddy.com.
When I started Bright Star Care, I had one focus: to provide a higher standard of care. Safe, reliable, nurse-led care right in people's homes. That's been my goal for 20 years, and it always will be. Now, local agencies are looking for experienced nurses and caregivers who have the passion it takes to deliver that higher standard of care.
Hope you all like potatoes. These are fresh from my garden.
What? Is your garden in Idaho?
No, it's in my backyard.
Don't let this happen to you. Always look for the Grown in Idaho seal.
I have a surprise. The New York Times, Vanity Fair, and Rolling Stone are all talking about The Holdovers.
Okay, let's hear.
The raucously funny smash hit of the Toronto and Telluride Film Festival reunites Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti for the first time since Sideways. The New York Times raves The Holdovers is one of the finest of Payne's career. 4 stars. It's pure movie magic. The Holdovers, rated R. Now playing in select theaters. In theaters everywhere November 10th.
Hi, I'm Ben, and I've lost 60 pounds on Golo. With other programs I've tried in the past, they were unsustainable, just too restrictive. With Golo, I can enjoy my food, and the fear and guilt of eating is gone.
Sleep more deeply and wake up rejuvenated. With Purple's new mattresses, fall asleep 20% faster, have less aches and pains, and sleep uninterrupted. Right now, save up to $900 off mattress sets during Purple's Black Friday sale. Visit purple.com or a store near you today.
1 in 3 children is now at risk of going to school on an empty stomach.
When I'm hungry, my stomach starts to hurt a little bit. It's hard to think and concentrate. I don't have enough energy.
But there's hope. By supporting Toonies for Tummies, 100% of your donation gives hungry children in your community the chance to start their day with a much-needed nutritious meal.
When I eat breakfast, I have lots of energy. When it's gym, I can run really fast.
Donate online today.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
What does human talent look like?
Just go on Fiverr. See for yourself.
Imagine working with them.
Yeah, imagine that.
I'm Melanie Zanona in Washington, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Gilt. Visit Gilt.com today for up to 70% off designer brands.
Gilt has the designers that get your heart racing. At insider prices, new every day. Hurry, they'll be gone in a flash. Designer sales at up to 70% off. Shop Gilt.com today.
Well, welcome back. FBI Director Christopher Wray warning that Americans are facing an increased terror threat amid Israel's war against Hamas. During a Senate hearing yesterday, Wray cautioned that the terror group's propaganda could inspire lone wolf attacks and violent extremists in the U.S.
But the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level. Here in the United States, our most immediate concern is that violent extremists, individuals or small groups, will draw inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks against Americans going about their daily lives.
Joining us now is former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson. He's also a partner at the law firm Paul Weiss. Mr. Secretary, thank you for your time. To that point, I've heard from officials who were very concerned that this would dramatically accelerate recruitment around the world. Why should this reach domestic shores to some degree? Why should this threat be considered real at home right now?
First of all, it's amazing to me that, and Director Wray said this yesterday, that Jews represent just 2.4% of the American population, yet they are the victims of 60% of the religious hate crimes in this country. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. I'm always struck when I go to speak to groups at synagogues, the level of security necessary at a house of worship. The rise of anti-Semitism in this country is undeniable. I agree with the message that the FBI director sent yesterday, which is that Americans, I used to say the same thing in times like this, when Americans should continue to go about their daily lives, go to public events, holiday season is approaching, but always be vigilant. If you see something, say something, does make a difference. It has made a difference. And without a doubt, passions in this country from what's happening in the Middle East are rising. You see this on the campuses of colleges and universities. You see this at public events. We all need to be vigilant. We all need to be careful.
This is what Secretary Mayorkas, who holds the job that you had, here's what he said about the rise in anti-Semitism and threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab Americans. Listen.
In the days and weeks since, we have responded to an increase in threats against Jewish, Muslim, and Arab American communities and institutions across our country. Hate directed at Jewish students, communities, and institutions add to a pre-existing increase in the level of anti-Semitism in the United States and around the world.
We have seen the Biden administration speaking out on this, taking some action to change, for example, language and what a federal hate crime is. What more do you think there is more this administration could do right now?
I think we all need to make clear where the line is. In a free society like this one, where we all have a right to free speech, in times like this, we are allowed to be loud, We're allowed to be emotional. We're allowed to be vocal in the expression of our views about what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Gaza. The line, however, is we should not be, and we should be discouraging inciting hate, inciting violence, inciting hate directed at American Jews, inciting hate against Palestinians. But, you know, in a society such as ours, we should expect that people are allowed to express their views in a very passionate and emotional way without inciting hate and violence.
The fact that you use the word inciting is so important because I think that is often missed in the debate over freedom of speech and the First Amendment, that there is a line.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court's been very clear on there is a line, and the line is incitement.
Correct. The line is incitement to hate and violence. In many instances, it can be criminal. And what we're seeing now on social media and elsewhere are irresponsible individuals who go that step further, cross that line, and put people here in this country in real jeopardy. And it's disturbing that so many Americans today feel that the only way to express themselves is through violent, hateful speech. You know, great social movements in this country have most often been peaceful. The civil rights movement in the 60s, Dr. King always preached nonviolence. And so there is a way, particularly for young people who are on the campuses of colleges and universities today, who feel passionate about this subject on both sides, there is a way to express your views forcefully, even loudly, without resorting to encouraging violence against others, without putting others in physical jeopardy.
The former General Counsel of the Pentagon is considered to be the architect, one of the architects, or the architect of the Obama administration's counterterrorism kind of legal infrastructure. When you look at strikes like what we've seen in Jabalia, what are your concerns?
Israel is, of course, party to the Geneva Conventions. They are governed by the laws of armed conflict, like the United States. I do not believe that the IDF is targeting civilians. I believe that the IDF is seeking to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza, but they do walk a fine line. Gaza is a crowded urban area. I hold Hamas just as responsible, if not more, than the IDF for civilian casualties in Gaza, because Hamas puts their command and control centers underneath refugee camps, underneath hospitals. Hamas told Palestinian civilians to disobey the order to evacuate the northern part of that territory. So it's a difficult road to walk, but Israel must destroy and degrade Hamas. That's their mission. And I'm sure they're determined to go about the mission, but they do walk a fine line.
Secretary Jay Johnson, your perspective invaluable this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. CNN This Morning continues now.
A deal has been reached to release all foreign nationals being held in Gaza, along with critically injured civilians.
Explosions rocked the Jabalia refugee camp, flattening apartment buildings and leaving behind a giant crater.
They were able to kill the commander of Hamas's central Jabalia battalion.
Doctors Without Borders have condemned this airstrike.
Children pulling wounded children out of the rubble. One man who saw the strike said it felt like the end of the world.
It is not the goal of Israeli forces to deliberately take innocent civilian life.
Hamas uses civilians as their human shields.
The ongoing war has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level.
We have a long way to go to start restoring the civility and the respect for different peoples.
House Republicans are supporting the Israel-only approach, but Democrats are against it.
This is all one fight. We have to respond in a way that recognizes that.
This is CNN Breaking News.
I'm Phil Manning with Poppy Harlow in New York, and we are following the breaking news this morning. Americans and hundreds of other foreign nationals who have been trapped in Gaza in the middle of a war zone could finally have a way out. Same with critically injured civilians. You're looking live right now at the Rafah border crossing in Egypt. Sources telling CNN Qatar has brokered a deal with Hamas, Israel, and Egypt to allow up to 500 foreign nationals to leave the Gaza Strip and cross into Egypt. We've been seeing ambulances rushing to the border and crowds gathering throughout the morning.
A Western official tells CNN Americans are not expected to be in the first batch of people allowed to leave today, but Americans will be allowed to leave in the coming days. We are also told this deal does not include hostages being held by Hamas. Those are completely separate negotiations. We have team coverage this morning. Let's start with our Melissa Bell, who is live in Cairo. And Melissa, you were just there. You were just at the Rafah border crossing yesterday. This is a huge development.
This is a big development, and even yesterday afternoon when we were at the Rafah crossing, no one expected this to happen. The crossing has been remarkably quiet, with long lines of trucks waiting to bring that much-needed aid in, and very few of them getting in the last 3.5 weeks. The process has been painfully slow. Everything at the Rafah crossing seemed completely blocked. And then this breakthrough, these talks that involved Qatar, Egypt, Hamas, and Israel, in coordination with the United States, that have led to this extraordinary breakthrough. We heard yesterday, first of all, that 81 of the most severely wounded would be allowed out. We've seen this morning those ambulances getting through the Rafah crossing to the other side in order to bring them out. Now, these are some of the most severely wounded that need surgical intervention urgently. There's been a field hospital set up some 9 miles away from the Rafah crossing. We've just been getting pictures of that. Egyptian authorities have set that up in anticipation of those arrivals. But perhaps the bigger development, or certainly the one the outside world was anxiously waiting for, was the news that the foreign nationals or dual nationals would be allowed out. We know, for instance, Poppy and Phil, that there are some 400 Americans stuck inside Gaza right now, many hundreds of other nationals as well. And over the course of the last 3 weeks, we've seen so many civilians, both Palestinians and foreign nationals, making their way to the Rafah crossing in anticipation of the fact that they might be allowed to cross. So far, though, no Palestinians have been allowed out at all. All we've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks is a handful of hostages being allowed through the Rafah crossing and nobody else. So this is a big development, a big breakthrough in those talks. We've just heard then that between 450 and 500 foreign nationals will be making their way through the Rafah crossing today. We understand that there will be no Americans amongst them, but still, a huge breakthrough and a sign that the talks behind the scenes, as complex as they are working.
Melissa, there has been a lot of focus on our end about the American citizens, understandably so. However, what you're talking about, the wide scale of countries represented, we just got reporting in from our team on the ground. They spotted flags from the Czech Republic, Japan, Austria, and Indonesia. A number of officials from foreign consulates are standing by. Same with Egyptian military officials and security officials. What kind of infrastructure is in place to receive these individuals when they come through?
Well, for the time being, there's very little clarity on that, Phil, just because we've only had this announcement in the last couple of hours. And again, it was a very unexpected breakthrough, given how quiet officials have been on the question of whether this was going to happen at all, frankly, over the course of the last 3 weeks. And imagine the complexity of this issue. It takes agreement between a bunch of parties, many of whom are not speaking to each other: Israelis, Hamas, Egyptians, Qataris, Americans. And of course, with that question, not only that Israel has been very reluctant to allow anyone out, but also that Egypt's been very reluctant as well. It is fearful of a flood of refugees coming across the border. It is also very conscious of the political question, that it does not want the whole-scale displacement of the Palestinian population of Gaza onto its territory for political reasons as well. So this has been complex negotiations, and when you add to that the logistical difficulty of the consular services that are going to be needed to get these people across the border onto Cairo to their homes, when many of them might be traveling without documents, and the levels of chaos on the other side of that crossing, I think, are important to try and imagine. There's been Israeli bombings as far south of the Rafah crossing, according to many different sources, and an awful lot of civilians who've been camped out there in terrible conditions waiting to get through. What we expect to see is that these foreign nationals will make their way through. Consular services will at some point be ready to receive them, possibly in Cairo, before moving them on. But for the time being, we have very little clarity on this question. Just the fact that there's been this breakthrough and the hope that at least 450 to 500 foreign nationals will be making their way out of Gaza today, and that in itself is great news.
Yeah. Yeah, Melissa, that's such a great capture of just how complex this is. I was texting with a Western official earlier who said fluid was the best way to describe how things are. Melissa Bell on the breaking news. Thank you so much.
Well, this morning, Israeli defense forces are defending the decision to strike the largest refugee camp in Gaza. An IDF spokesman is now saying The collapsed tunnels were part of the reason the scale of destruction and death was so broad. The strike was Tuesday on Jabalia refugee camp. Witnesses say the strike killed a large number of Palestinian civilians and caused massive damage, as you see clearly here in this video. The IDF claims a Hamas commander who was integral in the October 7th terror attack was in those tunnels under the refugee camp. The IDF says that man was killed. Hamas, however, denies that. Joining us now is our Salma Abdelaziz. She joins us now with all of this. We don't have a number of dead, but the images certainly tell us a lot. And has the IDF presented evidence that indeed this man, a leader of Hamas, was killed?
Well, let's start by looking at these images again, Poppy, because they begin to paint the picture on the ground. They begin to explain to you why we do not have a number of killed so far. Up until this morning, survivors were still, with their bare hands, digging through the rubble of their homes. You can see those massive craters in the ground. It looks essentially like several city blocks were leveled in these multiple airstrikes that the Israeli military says were targeted to take out, again, the senior Hamas commander. You asked for evidence. They have not provided that specifically, but what we do know, regardless, is that this is and was a residential area, an area that was densely packed with families, with children. You can see some of those children quite literally being pulled out from the rubble of their homes. Hospitals that were already overwhelmed, already at breaking point. Say last night they were receiving what was essentially one doctor describing the results of a massacre after these multiple airstrikes on the ground. Now, this is in the north of Gaza. Of course, Israeli officials will say, we've told people to flee from the north. Well, that's not really possible, Poppy. It is very difficult to imagine, and the UN has called this an impossible task, a family fleeing from the north of the Strip to the south, under bombardment, under siege, and to where? When there's also bombardment in the south. And you have to remember, when you're looking at these pictures, when you're looking at this carnage, when you're looking at this horror of the suffering, the agony on the ground, there are families burying their loved ones today. There are families burying their children today. And every time Prime Minister Netanyahu has a chance to speak, he reminds people that this is only the beginning of this war. This is only the start of this conflict. You again hear that international outcry, that international condemnation, the calls for a ceasefire. Of course, no sign of that taking place now, and everyone on the ground there in Jabalia just trying to find who they can, who has survived, who has died, bury their loved ones. We're hearing from some doctors that entire families have been wiped out.
Yeah. And images of children carrying injured children. Salma, thank you for the reporting. Phil.
Joining us now is IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. Lieutenant Colonel, we appreciate your time. I'll get to the Jabalia strike in a moment. I want to start, though, with the agreement brokered by Qatar and other entities at the Rafah border crossing. Does that agreement include IDF forces or Israeli forces agreeing not to conduct any strikes near or around Rafah in the near term?
Thank you, Phil. You've actually asked me a couple of times over the last 3 weeks of evacuation of foreign nationals or dual nationals, and we've actually had 2 attempts. Each time Hamas had foiled it, so we're happy to see that some of those are coming out this morning. The people of Gaza are not our enemies. Hamas is our enemy, and this is just one component of the alleviation of the humanitarian strife that obviously exists in this time of war.
To build off that point, then, in the past times where you say Hamas blocked, which is something U.S. officials say as well, did the agreements that you thought were in place include the Israeli military saying they would not strike around Rafah during this time period?
So the IDF is operating against Hamas terrorists wherever they are operating. Of course, it is a very precarious time. I can't confirm that that is the situation that you're asking, but indeed we see that the people are going out, and that is what is important at this time.
When it comes to the Jabalia strike yesterday, the IDF has made clear you believe you took out a top Hamas commander from the Jabalia battalion. The question becomes, how do you prove that? Do you have evidence? Will you be showing evidence in the days ahead that that was in fact the case?
So here's what we know. We know Ibrahim Biari, the commander of the Jabalia refugee camp, or the Jabalia battalion, had utilized and was a key part of the attack on the 7th of October. He had mobilized, identified, instructed, trained, equipped the forces of the Nukhba force, the special commando units of Hamas, to penetrate into our towns and villages around the Gaza Strip, instructing them to commit these atrocities. So he is and he has actually 2 decades of Israeli blood on his hand with other terrorist activities. So I would say we know he's an arch terrorist, and of course, given the chance, he would do it again and again and again. So from our perspective, he is a military necessity, him and all of his henchmen that were supporting his activity. So I would say he was a target. We took him out. We've confirmed it in our intelligence capabilities to confirm his death in our strike, and that was the target that we took out. And indeed, as you rightly pointed out during the report, what we had seen in the aftermath of the strike is that their tunnel system beneath the buildings collapsed inwards, causing more damage.
Were you aware of that, to that point? I think it's an interesting point, because we look at the scale, and also I think to some degree, which underscores the scale of the ordnance used here. Were you aware that tunnel area existed? Was that the target? Did you want to try and collapse the tunnel system in that area?
We wanted to take out the enemy, that a brutal enemy that has no regard for human life, that intentionally places its infrastructure in the civilian arena. For 3 weeks now, we've been calling on the people of the northern Gaza Strip to evacuate the north. For 3 weeks now, Hamas has been telling people in the north to stay put. Unfortunately, not enough people obviously are listening, and this is the tragedy of this event. Each and every one of these civilian deaths caught up in this war, a war that Israel did not want, we were dragged into,
right?
But a war, nevertheless, that we are determined to win. Each and every one of the civilian deaths are on the head of Yahya Sinwar, the man, the mastermind of the massacre of Israelis on the 7th of October, and the person who has funded, planned, executed, instructed, and equipped the terrorist organization, and actually built the terrorist infrastructure beneath.
Sir, I understand what you're saying. I guess the question that I have is, you mentioned military necessity earlier, and I think what people are trying to figure out, particularly given the density of the population there and the difficulty, if Hamas is blocking civilians from leaving, what are they supposed to do? The threshold here, the excessive collateral damage, how do you justify, is there a red line? How does the Israeli military decide?
Phil, I don't accept the term excessive collateral damage. Every civilian life in this war is a human tragedy, a tragedy for all of us. Israelis and Palestinians alike deserve to live life in peace.
Sure, but thresholds exist in military conflict.
Hamas's leaders, they have failed the people of Gaza miserably. They've taken all of these funds and built the tunnel system. They've taken all of these funds and trained their terrorists to breach and massacre and butcher babies in their bedrooms. So it's not a question. There is the military necessity, which is clear. There's a clear military necessity. When you have a terrorist, an arch-terrorist, surrounded by dozens of his henchmen that are planning to conduct more attacks, then they are a legitimate target. We need to, and what we are trying to do, what we've been trying to do over the last weeks, is evacuate people while they're keeping them put. Indeed, we are constantly assessing, and we have called off strikes because of overpopulated areas. We need to be very cautious in coming or judging based on the reports that are coming out from Gaza, because we don't know who's controlling what the imagery and what we know what's being seen. We don't know what's being hidden. And this, when so much is going on beneath ground, we need to be very, very cautious. And indeed, when we make an announcement, just like we said about the Al-Ahli hospital, that Hamas were quicker to state that 500 people had been killed within 2 minutes of the failed launch of a rocket by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. When we presented the evidence and showed exactly how systematic we are, we proved that they were lying, and we need to be very, very cautious this time again.
Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, we appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Good day.
This breaking news just in: American citizens are expected to begin departing Gaza as soon as tomorrow. That is according to the U.S. government. Much more ahead on that. Meantime, a United Nations human rights official has left his post, releasing a letter calling Israel's military action in Gaza, quote, a textbook definition of genocide, He joins us live next.
And Speaker Mike Johnson's first big move as newly elected Speaker is proving to be a little divisive. We'll speak to a Republican congressman about the current funding fight happening on the Hill. Stay with us.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
This is American infrastructure. Megawatts of power, rails and open road, and essential services of every kind, all running on countless invisible networks, making it a prime target for cyber attacks. But the same AI-powered security that protects all of Google also defends the systems running America's infrastructure for these services, for the 336 million of us living here.
I have a structured settlement and I need cash now. Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now. I have an annuity, but I need cash now. Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
He hits his mark center stage and is crushed by a baby grand piano. You're replacing me?
Customize and save with Liberty Bibbity.
He doesn't even have a mustache. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
New emergency crystals pop and fizz when you throw them back. And who doesn't love a good throwback? Emergency crystals.
Nikki Haley's record on China, as Governor Haley rolled out the red carpet for Chinese companies.
They want to do business in South Carolina. Our home, your home.
She gave them millions in tax breaks, subsidies, free land. The Communist Party-owned high-tech company got 200 acres, 5 miles from an army base.
I think China is really in good faith doing quite a bit. They are a really great friend of ours.
Nikki Haley, questionable judgment, dangerous from China. Never back down is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When you're a small business owner, there's no such thing as 9 to 5. Days are longer, and business hours, well, they're anything but predictable, especially when you have clients like ours. When I considered payroll providers for my business, I looked for a solution that fit into my busy schedule. Short payroll makes running payroll fast and easy, so I can spend extra time with these guys.
Visit surepayroll.com/switch and get up to 6 months free. And find out what makes us different. Because small business is our business.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
I have a surprise. The New York Times, Vanity Fair, and Rolling Stone are all talking about The Holdovers.
Okay, let's hear.
The raucously funny smash hit of the Toronto and Telluride Film Festivals reunites Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti for the first time since Sideways. The New York Times raves The Holdovers is one of the finest of Payne's career. 4 stars. It's pure movie magic. The Holdovers, rated R. Now playing in select theaters. In theaters everywhere November 10th.
Kate's going big and going home for the holidays.
That's the plan.
At Michael's, she got everything to make cookies that were anything but cutter. Turn ideas into I did it.
So, why should you like me? I'm a hard worker with a 5-year plan. I like whatever sports team you do, and I don't partake in funny business. All I want to do is make your daughter happy. Thank you.
Ever wonder where the people with all the answers get all the answers? Ask Markham, accountants and advisors.
A top United Nations human rights official has left his post, and he has written a letter calling Israel's military action in Gaza, quote, a textbook definition of genocide. Until yesterday, Craig McIver served as the New York director of the UN Human Rights Office. Days before departing, he wrote an open letter to the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, calling attention to what he describes as the failure of the UN to stop Israel's military action in Gaza, and asserting that many Western countries are complicit in the, quote, wholesale slaughter of the Palestinian people. He goes on to write, quote, once again, we are seeing a genocide unfold before our eyes, and the organization that we serve appears powerless to stop it. What is more, the governments of the United States, United Kingdom, and much of Europe are wholly complicit in this horrific assault. In such circumstances, the demands on our organization for principled and effective action are greater than ever. We have not met that challenge. And Craig McIver joins me this morning. I appreciate your time, sir.
Good morning, Poppy.
I'd like to clarify what a UN spokesperson told The Guardian, that you were already set to retire after 32 years of service. Was your departure pre-planned, or is this what led to it?
Yes, in fact, I first raised my concerns about the trepidatious approach by the UN in the wake of atrocities in the occupied territories in March. This was after a series of violations, including the pogrom that took place in Hawara village on the West Bank. I was frustrated at that time by what I thought was a weak response to this level of atrocities, and by an effort to tone down and silence UN officials speaking out on this subject. And so I expressed at that time my intention to leave the organization in the coming months. Of course, the situation got much worse since then, particularly since October, with the horrific events that have taken place since that time. And so I felt compelled to put my concerns in writing officially to the High Commissioner for Human Rights before my departure.
How do you arrive at the assessment based on the UN Convention definition of genocide that Israel is carrying out a genocide right now?
Well, you're right. That's based upon a UN convention, the binding international legal treaty that defines what genocide is, what its elements are. And we know that genocide is a term that is often politicized, it's often misused, it's often used as just a charge of abuse by one side or the other. But in this case, all of the elements that are listed in the UN Convention, beginning with explicit expressions of intent by senior Israeli officials in the government and in the military, in addition to the specific prohibited acts, killing on a large scale, expulsions, creating conditions that are determined to bring about effectively the destruction of a population, in this case the population in Gaza. All of these have been very well documented and add up to the crime of genocide. Of course, it's not exclusively genocide. There are a whole range of other war crimes, crimes against humanity that are being perpetrated there. But this is the supreme crime of international law, and the response of the international community in the wake of this crime has been truly disappointing.
Craig, there is, as you note in that convention, also a mental element that is defined as, quote, intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. Israel has continued to say it is defending itself against the terror attack on October 7th that killed more than 1,400 innocent Israelis. And here is what the IDF spokesman Peter Lerner just told my colleague Phil.
We wanted to take out the enemy, a brutal enemy that has no regard for human life, that intentionally places its infrastructure in the civilian arena. For 3 weeks now, we've been calling on the people of the northern Gaza Strip to evacuate the north. For 3 weeks now, Hamas has been telling people in the north to stay put. Unfortunately, not enough people obviously are listening, and this is the tragedy of this event. You know, each and every one of these civilian deaths caught up in this war, a war that Israel did not want.
And here is what John Kirby at the White House and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries have both said in the last day. Listen.
We're not funding any kind of a genocide. And as I said earlier, Dana, that's not what Israel's after here. They're going after Hamas terrorists. And yes, there have been civilian casualties. And as I said, none of them should happen.
Israel is not conducting an ethnic cleansing campaign. Israel is not engaged in genocide.
Israel continues to say it is going after Hamas. It is Hamas that is keeping its civilians where it is, that is using them, innocent Palestinians, as human shields. Why label that genocide?
Of course, we've seen these claims before, repeatedly by the Israeli authorities in previous large-scale attacks on civilian populations. First, claiming self-defense under international law gives no state the right to commit the kinds of atrocities that it is carrying out now. You're talking about the wholesale destruction, not just of apartment buildings and homes and whole neighborhoods, but of whole sections of the already densely populated Gaza Strip. Secondly, let me respond to the U.S. officials that you spoke to. That's particularly disturbing because the U.S. also has an obligation under international law to ensure respect for the Geneva Conventions. And in this case, it's not only not providing that support, it's actually been supporting the onslaught.
You call them.
You're talking about millions of civilians.
Craig, you are saying these are Israeli claims. Are you refuting the fact that Hamas surrounds its militants with innocent Palestinian civilians? That one of the reasons that so many of them were in Jabalia at that refugee camp is because they'd been told by Hamas not to flee to the south?
I am refuting that, absolutely. I lived in Gaza for the better part of 2 years in the 1990s. I can tell you it is extremely densely populated. Even to the best of times, the idea of moving millions of people, 1.1 million people, that half of the population of Gaza, southward in a situation where neighborhoods are bombed to rubble, where people are injured, where there are no roads, where there are no reliable vehicles, where when they move they are still attacked by Israeli airstrikes, is really a very disingenuous claim. We know from our people on the ground that is not the situation on the ground. People are not staying put because they're being ordered to do so. They have nowhere to go. And remember, Gaza is an open-air prison in which, these millions of people are locked in. They can move around within the fence, but even moving around within the fence now is a practical impossibility. So these old tropes about, the Palestinians sacrificing their own people, these don't hold up to the facts on the ground, and they contradict the requirements of international law. That was the point of my letter, Poppy, was we need to get back to a paradigm based upon international law and international human rights.
I read your letter. I want to get to a specific part of it in a moment, but you used the word pogrom at the beginning of our conversation. Do you assess the pogrom on the Jewish people on October 7th to be genocide carried out by Hamas?
Well, I think one of the things that the UN has been very clear about, and I've been very clear about, is that civilian life is precious, and attacks on civilians are prohibited by the very international law.
But is that a yes or no? Because even the updated, Craig, is that a yes or no? Because even the updated Hamas charter from 2017 calls for the complete, it calls it Israel as entirely illegal, and you know that it states from the river to the sea. So my question is what Hamas did genocide?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that what we need an investigation to determine the scope and the nature of the crimes committed by Hamas. There's no question that war crimes were committed. This is evident because of the large loss of civilian life that accompanied Hamas's attacks. But the point of my letter was that the UN has no trouble in criticizing actions by armed groups like Hamas, where they fall down. And what was missing in this case was criticism of powerful states like Israel and, frankly, like the United States. And this is what we need. We need an approach based on the rule of law, where it's the rules that apply, not taking sides of one party or the other, but insisting on respect for the precious lives of civilians and for the principles of international law. And that's where the UN has fallen down in this case. Parts of the UN. Poppy, I want to be clear. I'm not condemning the whole UN here. UN staff on the ground have been absolutely heroic. Humanitarian workers, dozens of whom have been killed under Israeli bombs just in the last couple of weeks. Human rights monitors and others have been doing what they are mandated to do. But the political side of the House has not really communicated what it needs to communicate with regard to the massive assaults on civilian populations, which I have concluded constitute genocide.
Craig, I want to understand a specific part of your letter. Let me read this. You lay out 10 things that you believe that the UN should do in this conflict. Number 3, one state based on human rights. You write, quote, "We must support the establishment of a single, democratic, secular state in all of historic Palestine." What do you say to critics who view that and read that as calling for the elimination of Israel? Are you?
Well, very clearly what I'm calling for is the salvation of Israel. I'm not asking for the elimination of Israel. I'm asking for the elimination of what all international human rights organizations and Israeli human rights organizations have called an apartheid system. I'm merely asserting the essential need, if we want to resolve this conflict, of establishing a place where everyone is equal, where we have equal rights for Christians, Muslims, and Jews, and abandoning the current approach where the indigenous population are excluded from those rights. So if Israel is to be saved, it's going to be saved based upon a state where there are equal rights for everyone, Christians, Muslims, Jews, and others. That is not the elimination of Israel. That's the elimination of apartheid.
Craig Mokhiber, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Poppy.
Thank you.
Well, this is new video you're looking at right now, showing ambulances with injured people waiting to leave Gaza. We've learned at least 10 Egyptian ambulances are also waiting inside Gaza. We're going to have more from the ground throughout the morning. Stay with us.
Right now, get a free footlong at Subway.
This standalone Israel aid bill, saying it makes Israel, quote, a political pawn. Now, Johnson's first big move as the elected Speaker of the House is proving to be divisive. Some agree within his own party.
Treat all four of these areas, all four of them, Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and the border.
We need to understand, because President Biden has grandiose statements about Ukraine winning, but he's sending aid not to lose. And that is not a strategy that we need to have dealing with a very aggressive country like Russia.
Well, joining us now is Republican Congressman from Tennessee, Tim Burchett. It is Wednesday, so we are talking to Congressman Burchett. And finally, on a Wednesday, we can talk about policy instead of who the next Speaker of the House is going to be. Congressman, I appreciate your time. You led a letter, or co-led a letter, back in mid-October, making clear to Senate leaders that they needed to decouple Ukraine funding from Israel funding. Senate leaders, both Republican and Democrat, and the President have said that's a non-starter for them. Is there any way you would vote for an Israel aid package if it comes back to you from the Senate with Ukraine funding in it?
I don't think so. I made it pretty clear where I've been on Ukraine funding. We've given them, what is it, $120 billion now, basically unchecked. And that's Ukraine, not Israel. And the president characterizing this as an Israeli aid package is really kind of bogus. And him saying that we're politicizing when, in fact, obviously, in politics, the first rule you learn is accuse your enemies of doing exactly what you're doing. But it's 4 different sheets of paper. Good gosh, you put a border package, which actually it's not really a border package. It's just a bureaucrat package allowing more illegals to get into our country, in the interior of our country, which I'm still not understanding why the Democrats don't abandon. I know it's the Democrat challenger to the president. That's one of his main issues, and it's struck a real nerve because a lot of people see the and also Taiwan. If we're going to send Taiwan funds or arms, let's just do that. Let's separate the 4 packages are ridiculous, and of course the insult of all insults to America was that during those 20 some odd days that we did not have a speaker, that we couldn't act on Israel, when in fact he had never even sent the bill to the Senate. And so I think this is a good option, Mike Job, for Mike Job, our speaker, our new speaker. I think he's showing clear leadership, and that a lot of people are not fond of the funding of the IRS, when in fact one thing that was not covered about the IRS funding was that the reason that we have such poor results from the IRS is because they're not in their offices. Dadgum, they're still taking off after COVID. They're working from home. As a United States Congressman, I'll write a letter to the IRS, and it can take 6 months. As a United States Congressman, I can't imagine what you as a citizen endure with the IRS. So,
can I ask you though about the IRS funding? And I understand the concerns. And part of the issue, besides the work from home policy, is that they felt like they were underfunded, which hurt their efforts to some degree, has been the position that they've held. But tax collection and more effective tax collection actually helps on deficit and debt issues in terms of raising funding. Whether or not you want lower taxes or not, that is just kind of how the IRS works. You are a deficit hawk. You have made the debt a central issue of yours repeatedly in spending discussions, campaigns. This would add to the deficit by most scoring. And also, it doesn't really cover much at all in terms of a pay for. Why go this route?
Why does it add to the deficit? If you've got a set number of people and they're claiming we need to hire more, and they're claiming that all this is doing is refreshing when people retire. And so why would more?
Well, if you reduce the ability to collect more taxes, then you wouldn't have as much money coming into the U.S. Treasury.
Well, I understand your point, but my point is this: if you've already got this number of people, and then you're going to add these billions of new dollars to hire new people, wouldn't the money from the people that have retired, wouldn't the new folks coming in, wouldn't that be the same amount of money or close in that ballpark to this comical amount? And we know, and in our hearings we found out, and there was nobody even in denial, Democrat or Republican, that part of the efficiency was.
Right.
That they're not in the office in the phone, and if they're not in the office, why are we paying these high rents on real estate? Why aren't we cutting this real estate? It just seems like a business-like approach be handled in all this, and it would make sense. Both parties agree to that, but getting there right now with the political football of throwing Israel in the mix.
A little back and forth, which means we're going to be talking about this next week, next Wednesday as well, I'm sure. Congressman Tim Burchett, we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, bro.
Well, the Senate has confirmed former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew as the new U.S. ambassador to Israel. It was a 53 to 43 vote, primarily along party lines, with only 2 Republicans joining Democrats in support of Lew's nomination. Others voiced their displeasure about Lew's involvement in the Iran nuclear deal during the Obama administration. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer noted the urgency of filling that vacancy given the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas.
We're breaking now into CNN right now. Injured Palestinians from Gaza have begun arriving in Egypt one by one. We're going to continue to follow the situation at the Rafah border crossing. Stay with us.
We just signed the lease on our 3rd shop. My assistant went to CustomInk.com to get new uniforms with all the locations. He found great products, uploaded new art, and had boxes sent to all the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at CustomInk.com.
Got the cabin for 3 days. Gonna be sweet. What? I'm 12 hours short.
Have a fun weekend.
Was that necessary?
No, neither is a blown weekend. With Paycom, employees do their own payroll, so you can fix problems before they become problems. Get Paycom and make the unnecessary unnecessary. See you down the line.
Dale used to hide his smile. Now, it's swishing time. He uses TheraBreath Anti-Cavity Mouthwash for 24-hour cavity protection.
And it helps strengthen enamel. Not that you have any weaknesses.
Try TheraBreath Mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash.
The all-new Ergo Smart Base from Tempur-Pedic automatically responds to snoring, so no more nudging your partner or hiding under your pillow. Because this system actually detects snoring, then adjusts to help reduce it.
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take Cunol turmeric because it helps with healthy joints and inflammation support. Cunol, the brand I trust. Introducing Cunol Joint Health with turmeric, type 2 collagen, and more.
At Grainger, we know the ones who get it done wear a lot of hats. That's why we're always here for you, with professional-grade products and the knowledge to help answer tough product questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I was getting older. I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/hire and get started today.
What does human talent look like?
Just go on Fiverr. See for yourself.
Imagine working with them.
Yeah, imagine that.
Trust and Will has taken the process of creating your will and made it easy. Like while you're lounging on the couch, easy. All documents are state specific, legally valid, and start at just $159. Find the plan that's right for you at trustandwill.com.
Does RexMD really work? Over 85% of patients said not only does it work, they saw results the very first night. Get your starter pack at RexMD.com and see your results the first night.
What if you could get rid of your kitchen garbage at the push of a button? Lomi can take your food waste and turn them into nutrient-rich fertilizer that you can feed your plants. Get your Lomi today and join the movement.
I'm Pete Montine at Reagan National Airport. This is CNN. Welcome back, where we continue to follow the breaking news. You're looking at live pictures of the Rafah border crossing, where injured Palestinians have been met by ambulances. The first of them are starting to cross the border. We're also learning up to 400 to 500 foreign nationals will be leaving as well, including Americans. Americans likely to start as soon as tomorrow, sources are saying. Also, Israel says it continues to intercept threats on both the northern and southern borders, including an aerial threat by Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. The spokesman for the Houthi forces says there are plans for more strikes in the, quote, until, quote, the Israeli aggression ceases. As Israel's military pushes further into Gaza and casualties mount, there is growing concern the war could widen throughout the region. CNN's Jim Sciutto is live for us in northern Israel. Jim, you've been keeping a close eye on this critical border region, including the back and forth that we've seen. Do you have any sense of a clear escalation beyond what we've seen up to this point?
Well, there's a lot of attention to Friday, and that is when Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, is expected to speak, and folks here in Israel and around the region curious what he's going to say. Is he going to threaten more activity? Is he going to throw Hezbollah's lot in against Israel in a more aggressive manner? But already Hezbollah has been taking shots multiple times a day across the border into Israel. And I just want to draw your attention to one thing. We were here yesterday evening, and the top of that hillside was on fire. We learned today that the target of that Hezbollah fire was that communication station up there. You can see those towers, those communication towers. And one difficulty at the northern border is that really these communities are intertwined. The border is a zigzag of a wall here. I'll point in the direction over here. On either side of that zigzag wall there is Lebanon, and that's one issue, right? These communities, some of them cross the border. They're on both sides of it. It makes defending the border for Israeli forces so difficult, as we've found, as we've been spending time with Israeli forces here. Have a listen.
Israeli soldiers gaze north toward Lebanon, what they fear could be the next front of this war. And in fact, Israel and Hezbollah are already exchanging fire across the length of the Israeli-Lebanon border. IDF howitzers firing on Hezbollah targets and Hezbollah firing back. Virtually every village we visit along the border has come under fire.
When you travel along the Israel-Lebanon border, you see things like this multiple times a day. The smoke rising there, the flames from a strike that just across the border inside Lebanon. Not clear if that was outgoing fire from Lebanon or incoming from Israel. We did just hear from the IDF and there's another explosion as we're speaking. And we heard of another exchange of fire just a couple miles down here. That wall you see along there, that marks the border between Israel on this side, Lebanon on the other.
The threat comes from further afield as well. Today, Israel said its Arrow high-altitude missile defense system fired for the first time since the October 7th attacks, responding to a missile launched by Houthi rebels in Yemen. Israeli officials see one nation behind all these attacks: Iran.
There are many actors who are acting at the behest of Iran, including the Houthis, who are trying to challenge us and to distract us from the war in Gaza. We remain focused. We are focused on the war in Gaza.
Gaza remains the main thrust, but the IDF is attacking inside Lebanon and Syria multiple times a day. This strike, the IDF says, hit Hezbollah infrastructure. Funerals held for the last 2 days in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah saying nearly 50 of its fighters have been killed since the clashes began.
One result of this threat already is that these towns on the border, they are under mandatory evacuation. That's why I'm able to walk down Main Street in the middle of the day out of fear of that escalation. Anyone here is either a member of the military, reservists, etc. And keep in mind, as you mentioned, Phil, that it's the worry now about escalation from multiple fronts. You've got Gaza in the south, Lebanon to the north, Syria to the northeast, and then many hundreds of miles away, Yemen. But all of those places have Iran-backed proxies. If they make a decision to come into this conflict in numbers, then of course this becomes a much broader war. Phil and Poppy?
Jim Sciutto for us. Great reporting. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, thanks very much. An arrest of a student has been made after that student made threats against the Jewish community at Cornell University. All of those details ahead.
And we're continuing to follow the breaking news out of Gaza. Critically injured Palestinians and hundreds of Americans and other foreign nationals. Some on their way out, others could finally be getting out soon. Stay with us.
Hey, human, what if you could accomplish something instead of endlessly following up? How about if you collaborated with other humans in other departments? What if making a project template was quicker than putting on work pants? What if you could keep up with projects without chasing other humans down? What if how humans work actually worked for humans? Operate at peak human. Smart cheat.
Imagine making premium cocktails at the touch of a button. Introducing Bartesian. From the comfort of your own home, you can enjoy quality ingredients and the premium pours you'd expect from a cocktail lounge. Simply insert the capsule, select your strength, and enjoy.
Get our best Black Friday deal now, only at Bartesian.com/drinks.
An official message from Medicare.
Often, things look the same, exactly the same, until you take a closer look. At Medicare.gov, you can easily compare all your options and see the real difference. Find a plan that offers you more, or saves you money. Wouldn't that be nice? Plans change every year, so can your health. Open enrollment.
Song by Paul Becker and Paul Rambo song, also the new and first leader of humankind in the free world. Created November 1st, 2023. It was actually my father's birthday, even though he's no longer living. This song's going to be called Israel Tried Its Best to Persuade Palestinians to leave the area, but Hamas forced them to stay. Israel tried its best to get the Palestinians to leave the area, knowing that they were going after Hamas and there would be targeting of Hamas there, yeah. They tried their best to get Palestinians to leave, but Hamas forced them to stay, to use them as human shields, the cowards. And so now many Palestinians have died. The place that they were standing, it collapsed. Why? Because Israel wants to also collapse the tunnels underneath that the Palestinians live on top of, you see. They don't want to kill the Palestinians, but they asked them to leave because they knew things like this could happen. When you collapse a tunnel in one place or section, well, it could have ramifications, yeah. It could collapse in other areas and places because of the weak structure of the ground. It's been so dug up. Yeah, Israel's trying its best to not have loss of life of civilian Palestinians. But Hamas forced them to stay there when Israel said leave. It's a war zone, so you don't want to be there, you see. But it's as simple as that. Why don't people understand? yeah, Israel and America are doing their best to make few Palestinian losses in this war going on right now. Get out of the war zone, people. Get out of the war zone, people. Get out of the war zone, people. And so anyone living on top on the earth, a big craters formed when the tunnels underneath began to collapse more and more.